Chapter 142. He stared at her for a moment before reaching out to grab a bottle from the bag. After twisting the cap open and tightening it, he tossed it into Shi Yao's arms and said, "You can have my bottle." His voice was low and deep, and it sounded as if he was speaking leisurely into her ears. Shi Yao's head spun for a second, and by the time she came back to her senses, he had already turned around and left. A gentle spring breeze blew past, and by the time Shi Yao caught a glimpse of Lin Jie's silhouette, his white tracksuit was puffed up by the wind, and a few strands of his hair were fluttering mischievously. Seeing that Lin Jie had left, the boys also followed suit. Flamboyant Yellow Jacket was the last to leave, but before he left, he didn't forget to ask Lung Wan with a cheeky smile, "Fellow student, are you really not going to consider giving me your phone number?" Lung Wan's face remained impassive, showing no signs of speaking at all. Flamboyant Yellow Jacket didn't get angry at all. The smile on his face shone brighter than the sun. "It's fine, fellow student. One day, you'll give me your phone number." Dark Blue Jacket had already walked a distance away when he heard Flamboyant Yellow Jacket's words. He turned around and urged, "Can you hurry up? We're going to play basketball." Flamboyant Yellow Jacket waved at Lung Wan and said, "Sayonara," before running off. When the boys were finally out of sight, He Tiantian opened the bottle cap and exclaimed in delight, "Wah, my Adonis is so cool. He's even opening a bottle cap for Yao Yao. I'd love to have a Adonis to open a bottle cap for me too." Zhang Yu nodded her head cooperatively. "I'm starting to believe Yao Yao's confession last night. But speaking of which, Yao Yao, is there a hole in your head? Why would you give up on such a good fiancé and think of canceling the engagement? Is there something wrong with your head?" He Tiantian, "That's right. Yao Yao, this is a blessing that you've accumulated in your previous life. No, the previous life, the life before that, the life before that, the life before that. How can you not cherish it? What good friends and what not? Didn't he still choose to give up on her after meeting her Adonis?" Shi Yao pouted as she lowered her head to sip on her black tea. Zhang Yu said, "That's not the point. The point is, Yao Yao, can you be a little more mature? How did you do it just now? You said so seriously that you could only choose one bottle?" He Tiantian, "That's right. Yao Yao, don't you want to lose face? You've disgraced the whole dormitory." Shi Yao gulped down 3/5 of the black tea in a single breath before raising her head and replying in a very reasonable manner, "It's not like you can eat face." Zhang Yu said, "You're right. I can't even refute you." He Tiantian, "It's a good thing that he can't eat his face. If he could, Yao Yao would have eaten it all." Lung Wan seemed to have come to a realization, and she continued, "If that's the case, no matter what, our dormitory room is destined to lose face." He Tiantian, "Classmate Lung Wan, let's not talk about Yao Yao anymore. Bro, are you really not going to consider that phone number? I think he's not bad. He's better than your previous pursuers." "Bro? Ha ha ha. Tiantian's nickname for her pursuers always makes me laugh. Toilet Bowl Man, Mediterranean Sea." Zhang Yu said as she turned to Lung Wan. "Wan, I also think that this phone number isn't bad." Shi Yao, who was too focused on drinking her tea, raised her hand that was holding the jasmine tea to express her agreement. Chapter 143. After saying those words, Lung Wan turned around and left. Looking at Zhang Xin's back, He Tiantian muttered under her breath, "I can't help but feel like something happened to Nuanyuan. Whenever the topic of dating is brought up, she's extremely resistant to it." Zhang Yu said, "Yeah, didn't we ask that before?" But not only did she not say anything, she even got very angry. At this point, Shi Yao had already finished the entire bottle of black tea. While searching for a trash can, she said, "Since Nuan Wan doesn't want to talk about it, let's not ask her about it. Everyone has their own secrets that they don't want others to know about. Besides, as friends, we shouldn't be curious about the matters of our friends." Zhang Yu nodded vigorously. Yes, I agree with Yao Yao." He Tiantian, "Shall we go eat Nuan Wan's favorite jajang noodles tonight?" Shi Yao was still trying to reason with him a second ago, but upon hearing about food, her eyes immediately curled up into crescents as she nodded and replied, "Sure." Before we went to eat fried paste noodles, The class leader came to the dorm and handed out a form for everyone to sign up for next month's sports meet. Since there were too many students avoiding the sports competition, the class leader began to act pitiful before everyone filled in the forms. She also emphasized that every dorm had to sign up for 4 events. Lung Wan registered for the swimming event, He Tian for the long jump event, and Jiang Yu for the cheerleading team. Initially, Shi Yao had only wanted to sign up for her specialty, the high jump, but in the end, she could only sign up for Jiang Yu's 100-meter sprint. After sending off the class monitor, Shi Yao and the others headed to dinner together. Zhajiamian was a noodle shop near the school. It took about 20 minutes to walk there. Along the way, Shi Yao bumped into Qin Yiran. However, this time, she was not alone. There were several boys following her. They were dressed like hooligans. One of them had a tattoo on his arm. After passing by Qin Yiran's group, Jiang Yu finally spoke up. Didn't Qin Yiran always look down on such people? Why is she with them now? He Tian. I don't know, but I don't think those male students are good people to begin with. Even though they're students of our academy, they don't seem to have attended any classes at all. They're always fooling around, and they often get into fights with others in the internet cafes near our academy. Lung Wan. Qin Yiran must have been so agitated by the incident on the school forum that she couldn't think straight. By the time they finished eating, the sky had already darkened. He Tian and Lung Wan wanted to go shopping together, so they went to the supermarket together. Jiang Yu wanted to go to the nearby bookstore to buy the latest fashion magazines, and Shi Yao wanted to return to the school library to do her papers. Therefore, after the 4 of them left the noodle house, they temporarily separated. Just as she was about to reach the entrance of the academy, Shi Yao bumped into Qin Yiran for the 3rd time. She was still followed by a few rascally boys. They had probably just finished eating and were walking to the internet cafe opposite the school. But before they could get far, Qin Yiran caught sight of Shi Yao. She turned to the tallest and darkest male student beside her and said a few words, following which, the male students immediately turned their gazes toward Shi Yao, and 1 or 2 of them even whistled loudly. Ignoring them, Shi Yao quickly made her way to the entrance of the academy. However, just as she was about to reach the school gate, a few people stood in front of her and blocked her way. It was Qin Yiran's group. Shi Yao changed her direction, and the others followed suit. Chapter 144. No one paid any heed to her, but when she tried to move in another direction, she was blocked once more. A frown formed on Shi Yao's forehead, but she still maintained her courtesy and said, "Fellow student, can you step aside?" Someone let out a disdainful chuckle. Shi Yao could tell that it was Qin Yiran's laughter, and the frown on her forehead deepened. Seeing that those people were surrounding her from all sides, she couldn't help but feel a little vexed and fearful. As a result, her tone turned a little hostile as well. "Can you step aside?" Those people still didn't say a word. However, the dark-skinned and muscular man standing right in front of Shi Yao was already moving toward her. Shi Yao pursed her lips. From the corner of her eyes, she noticed that the people on her left and right were moving as well, and she subconsciously took half a step back. It was only then that she realized that the people behind her were also moving toward her. When the person in front was only half a meter away from Shi Yao suddenly shouted, "Move aside." The dark-skinned and muscular man showed no signs of stopping at all, and he continued to inch closer and closer to Shi Yao. But just as he was about to press his entire body against Shi Yao's, a mineral water bottle suddenly flew over and struck his head. Accompanying his curses was an elegant and deep voice. "Are you deaf? Didn't you hear what she said? She told you to move aside." The moment those words were spoken, the young man standing in front of Shi Yao clutched the back of his head as he turned his head to look behind him. His movement had opened up Shi Yao's line of sight, allowing her to get a good look at the person standing in front of her. The tall and slender Lin Jiej had changed out of his sports attire for the afternoon physical education class and was now wearing a simple pair of jeans and a white shirt. He looked much more elegant and dignified than before. However, his expression didn't look too good. Deep hostility could be seen in his usually cold eyes. Seeing that the man in front of Shi Yao still hadn't moved away, he spoke up once more, and this time, his tone was much more ferocious than before. "I'll say it one more time. Move aside." The dark-skinned and muscular man standing in front of Shi Yao finally spoke up, and his tone was just as vicious as Lin Jie's. If I want to say it, I won't move aside. Before the man could finish his words, Lin Jie had already sent him crashing to the ground with a punch. Shi Yao's body trembled in fright. In the next instant, Lin Jie grabbed her wrist, and his tall and slender body stood in front of her, separating her from Qin Iran's group. F***Sike. The man who had been pummeled to the ground by Lin Jie stood up angrily. Lin Jie, don't you dare get cocky. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. Let me tell you, I have my eyes on that chick behind you. You, try staring at one of them. Just like before he could finish his words, Lin Jie had already interjected. As Lin Jie spoke, Shi Yao, who was standing behind him, could clearly feel a domineering aura emanating from him. It was a stark contrast to his usual calm and collected demeanor. I'll protect her. His tone was very heavy, but there was an eerie chill in it that pressed forward. If you're not afraid of death, feel free to touch her. Perhaps it was due to Lin Jie's overwhelming aura, but the tanned and muscular man didn't say a word at all. However, the gazes of the two men were unyielding as they stared at each other from a distance. The atmosphere grew a little tense. For some reason, Shi Yao couldn't help but feel worried that they would end up fighting one another. Lin Jie was alone, so it was clear that he wouldn't be a match for them. Chapter 145. But if I can't win, I can still run. Why don't I just pull Lin Jie along and run? With this thought in mind, Shi Yao grabbed Lin Jie's hand. Lin Jie's body trembled slightly in response to Shi Yao's actions. Just whose side is Softbun on? Are you sure you're not dragging me down by holding my hand? Just as Shi Yao was about to pull Lin Jie away with a tense expression, a voice suddenly sounded from behind. What's wrong? What's wrong? Shi Yao turned around and saw that it was Flamboyant Yellow, who had asked for Lung Wan's phone number earlier in the afternoon. He was walking over with a pink milkshake in his hand. Behind Flamboyant Yellow was Dark Blue. He was also holding a milkshake in his hand, but it was light yellow in color. Based on her experience with milkshakes, there was an 80% chance that one of them was strawberry-flavored while the other was pineapple-flavored. When she got closer, Deep Blue bit her straw and asked, "What happened?" Flamboyant Yellow looked at the horrified Lin Jie before glancing at the group of people standing by the side. In the end, his gaze fell on Qin Iran. Then, as if coming to a realization, he turned to Lin Jie and said, "Boss, you should bring little Junior back to school first. Xia Shangzhou and I will deal with this matter here." Lin Jie stood on the spot. He lowered his gaze to look at the petite hand that was holding his hand, and after a moment of hesitation, he nodded. Lu Binlai was right. It was best to bring Softbun away from here first. Otherwise, if a conflict were to arise, she might end up panting heavily after running a lap around the field. Be careful. Lin Jie instructed Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou before turning to Shi Yao and saying, "Let's go." The young lady didn't say a word. Her eyes were fixed on Lu Binlai. Lin Jie frowned in displeasure as he followed her line of sight. However, when he saw that she was staring at the milkshake in Lu Binlai's hand, his frown immediately eased. Then, he cursed in his heart, "How useless," as he took the unopened milkshake in Lu Binlai's hand and said, "I'll be taking this." After saying those words, Lin Jie pressed the milkshake against Shi Yao's face and said, "Let's go." Then he grabbed her hand and walked towards the school gate. Lin Jie, stop right there. Did I say that you can leave? The tanned and muscular man finally spoke up. I'm telling him to leave. I'm the one who has the final say here. Xia Shangzhou stretched out his hand to stop the young man from following Lin Jie. The tan man roared, "Who the F***ck are you? How dare you call yourself lousy in front of me?" Lu Binlai, it doesn't matter who he is. What's important is that he's your father, and I'm your father's father. Xia Shangzhou, screw you. Lu Binlai, I'm your father. After entering the school grounds, Lin Jie passed the milkshake to Shi Yao and inserted the straw into it. Only then did Shi Yao realize that she was still holding onto Lin Jie's hand. She blushed and quickly let go of his hand. Then, she took 2 steps back and whispered, "Thank you." Lin Jie didn't say a word. Instead, he lowered his gaze to look at his hands. For some reason, he couldn't help but feel a little uncomfortable. There was only one way to enter the school. The two of them walked forward in silence, a distance that was neither too far nor too close. Just as they were about to reach the canteen, a thought suddenly came to Shi Yao's mind, and she asked, "Will your two friends be fine? Should we inform the teachers?" Chapter 146. Lady, isn't your reaction time a little too long? It's already been several minutes. If those two really couldn't defeat the other party, they would already be lying on the ground, unable to get up, right? Lin Jie shot a glance at Shi Yao, and when he saw the nearly empty milkshake in her hand, he finally understood why she would only think of Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai now. So, she was only focused on eating earlier? Lin Jie was rendered speechless for a moment before replying. I already called the school security department to inform them when I entered the school. Shi Yao replied with an "oh" before lowering her head to gulp down the remaining milkshake. As she passed by the trash can, Shi Yao tossed the milkshake into it. After which, she shot a glance at Lin Jie, and after a moment of contemplation, she said, "I'll be leaving first." Lin Jie didn't say a word. Accustomed to him ignoring her, Shi Yao left him a goodbye before heading to the library. However, after walking for a distance, Shi Yao realized that Lin Jie was still following behind her. That's weird. Why is he still following behind me? Shi Yao hastened her footsteps, and when she finally slowed down, she sneaked a glance behind her. Surprisingly, the distance between them hadn't changed much. Could it be that he was going to the library just like her? There were quite a few people gathered in the library, so Shi Yao quickly scanned her surroundings. In the end, she had no choice but to choose a seat in the center. Just as she was about to take out her paper from her bag and place it on the table, a small commotion suddenly broke out in the quiet library. Curious, Shi Yao raised her head and saw Lin Jie swiping his card and walking in. It's really as I thought. He's here in the library too? Shi Yao thought as she searched for her pin in her bag. But as soon as she placed her pin on the table, the chair beside her was pulled aside. Accompanied by a refreshing fragrance, Shi Yao saw Lin Jie sitting down beside her under everyone's gazes. She could clearly sense quite a few female students in the library looking at her with envious gazes. She was only here to do a paper. She didn't intend to be so ostentatious. Besides, it's fine if you're looking at Lin Jie, but why are you dragging me into it as well? Shi Yao grumbled in her heart as she lowered her head and picked up her brush. Pretending that she couldn't see the people around her, she focused all her attention on her paper. Lin Jie didn't grab any books or papers, so the table in front of him was completely empty. He casually leaned back in his chair and played with his phone. He was probably afraid of disturbing the surrounding students, so he wore earphones. When Shi Yao was done with a quarter of the paper, she shot a glance at Lin Jie. The boy was probably playing a game. He stared intently at the screen of his phone, his fingers nimbly sliding across the screen. All Shi Yao wanted to do was take a glance, but in that instant, her eyes were fixated on Lin Jie's slender and beautiful fingers. What a beautiful pair of hands, with distinct joints and clean fingertips. How could there be such a person who looked good, had a good voice, a good background, a good height, a good figure, and even had good hands? There was simply no justice in this world. With this thought in mind, Shi Yao retracted her gaze. But halfway through, she stopped. That was because she noticed that the game Lin Jie was playing on his phone was PlayerUnknown's Battleground. It can't be. He's actually playing the same game as me? Before Shi Yao could recover from her astonishment, a male student suddenly walked over and discreetly pushed a light blue envelope toward her. With a hushed voice, he said, "Student Shi Yao, this is for you." Chapter 147. Lin Jie had his earphones plugged in, so he couldn't hear what the man was saying. However, from the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the light blue envelope. There's a pink heart pasted on the envelope. Lin Jie didn't even need to think to know what it was. That was because he had received too many similar things since he was young. In fact, he had even received this envelope before. This is too much. To actually send a love letter to Soft Bun right in front of me. With this thought in mind, Lin Jie discreetly removed one of his earphones and glared at the man who had delivered the letter to Shi Yao. The man continued staring at Shi Yao as if he didn't exist. What the heck? Are you treating me as if I don't exist? How dare you look at Soft Bun with such a lecherous gaze? Suppressing the urge to gouge out the man's eyeballs, Lin Jiej absent-mindedly played his game while his gaze drifted back and forth between the man's body. He removed his earphones so he could hear the man's words clearly. Shi Yao, you have to read it? Oh? You're a man. What the heck is oh? Lin Jiej had completely forgotten his earlier too much, and he cursed in disdain. Also, Shi Yao, I hope that you can remember my name. My name is Qin Shou, the Qin from Qin Shi Huang, and the Shou from birthday. Lin Jiej couldn't help but chuckle softly in his heart. Qin from Qin Shi Huang, and the Shou from birthday? Is there something wrong with that? You're talking about Qin Shi Huang and the Shou from birthday? After saying those words, the young man cast a longing glance at Shi Yao for a moment longer before sneaking back to his seat and sitting down. Lin Jiej, who had been shot in the head due to his distraction, exited the game, put down his phone, and looked at the man who had delivered the love letter to Shi Yao once more. He realized that the man wasn't reading his book, and he was bashfully sneaking glances at Shi Yao. What's wrong with this world? It's bad enough for a woman to be a mistress, so why do men like to be mistresses as well? And it's one thing for this man to be a mistress, but he's acting so brazenly and brazenly. It seems like I'm the one who's ignorant. Men are much scarier than women when they're despicable. A frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead as he shifted his gaze from the male student name, Animal, to Shi Yao. The girl placed the love letter on the side of the table without opening it. She didn't seem to be surprised by the scene just now. She lowered her head without any reaction and continued to do her paper. It seemed like Soft Bun wasn't interested in that brutish beast, or else she wouldn't have been so calm. But why is that beast still looking at Soft Bun? The library was a sacred place, and it was used to study, not to look at girls. The school's governance was really bad. Why didn't anyone come to manage it? Lin Jiej was growing more and more restless under the man's gaze. Eventually, when his gaze finally fell onto Shi Yao's paper, a thought suddenly flashed across his mind. He inched closer to Shi Yao and glanced at her mathematics paper. After which, he pointed at her paper and said, "You did this question wrong." Shi Yao was so focused on her question that she didn't notice Lin Jiej's movements at all. It was only when he spoke that she realized that he was standing very close to her. What was he doing? Shi Yao looked at Lin Jiej doubtfully. Ignoring Shi Yao's gaze, Lin Jiej feigned an intimate look as he pointed at her paper and said something that wasn't so intimate. "You did this question wrong too, and you did this question wrong too. It's such a simple question. How did you get it wrong?" Chapter 148. Did I make so many mistakes? Shi Yao bit on the shaft of her pen as she stared at the questions Lin Jiej said she had gotten wrong with a frown. "This question is wrong too, and there's also this one," Lin Jiej muttered non-stop as he browsed through the paper. "This mathematics paper of yours is as good as wasted. I've never seen anyone who has made more mistakes than correct in a mathematics paper. If you were to be placed in an examination hall, you'd probably flunk the entire exam, wouldn't you? What do you mean by as good as a waste of time?" Shi Yao's lips twitched. She really wanted to raise her hand to cover the paper to prevent Lin Jiej from looking at it. If she were good at math, she wouldn't have needed to do this. It was precisely because she was afraid of failing that she had to go to the library to do it. It can't be, right? How could you get this question wrong? I've known it since elementary school, but you still can't do it? Lin Jiej's attention was still fixated on Shi Yao's paper, so he didn't notice her displeasure at all. Looking at the paper, he shook his head and said, "Soft Bun, your math is really bad. It just so happens that I have nothing to do at the moment, so I'll reluctantly tutor you. If you say that I'm wrong, then so be it. Why are you using me to belittle me? Also, what the heck is Soft Bun? Are you referring to me? How do I resemble Soft Bun? That's a personal attack, all right? And lastly, what does reluctantly mean? She has the correct answer. It's just that she hasn't finished it yet, so she hasn't verified it yet. Besides, it's not like I asked him to tutor me. He's the one who came up to me. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao glared at Lin Jiej in displeasure. Noticing her displeased gaze, Lin Jiej turned to look at the beast. From the perspective of the beast, He could only see Lin Jiej's expression, not Shi Yao's. Thus, his lips curled up in a seemingly doting manner, but in truth, he was saying to Shi Yao, "Don't worry, I won't charge you for tutoring me." Ah, how can there be someone who can be so shameless? Without any hesitation, Shi Yao rejected Lin Jiej. "There's no need for it. I already have the answer. It's okay. It's really free. Besides, with your math level, I'm afraid you won't be able to understand how the answer was solved, right?" As Lin Jiej spoke, he snatched the pen from Shi Yao's hand and began redoing the questions that Shi Yao had gotten wrong on the paper. Honestly speaking, Lin Jiej's explanation was much easier to understand than the answers on the test paper. Initially, Shi Yao was still holding a grudge against Zhang Xian's suggestion, but after listening to his explanation, she recalled that her mathematics results were already teetering on the brink of collapse. In the end, she still decided to compromise with him. A wise man submits to circumstances. While she was explaining the questions, Shi Yao's attention was completely focused on the paper. On the other hand, Lin Jiej was constantly making small movements. He would either lean in closer to Shi Yao's face, wrap his arm around her shoulder, and use his other hand to tap on the paper, or rest his arm on the back of the chair behind Shi Yao. His series of actions seemed intimate and intimate. In the eyes of the spectators, they looked no different from a couple in the throes of passion. Just as he was about to finish explaining the questions, Lin Jiej saw the downcast and sorrowful look on the face of the beast who had just sent Shi Yao a love letter. His mood immediately lightened up, and he raised his pen generously and wrote a few more questions on the back of the paper. "Since you've understood the questions earlier, why don't you try answering these questions now?" Before Shi Yao could say anything, Lin Jiej had already continued, "I don't need you to treat me to a drink, but you can treat me if you want. I'll pay for it." Saying so, Lin Jiej took out his phone, tapped into the food delivery service, and passed it over to Shi Yao. "What would you like to drink? Who wants to buy you a drink? Could one not be so self-righteous?" Shi Yao muttered in her heart. Then, she looked at the colorful milk tea that Lin Jiej passed over and hesitated for a moment before she finally pointed to a milky green one. Yao nod. Lin. Yao Lin Jiej instead. Yao nodded. Zhang Yao Xiao Gu Lu Yao, Li Lu, and replied. Lu Lin. Lu Jili nodded. "I'm sorry, but the person you're looking for has already arrived on Mars." Lin Jiej calmly typed in 4 words, "Golden resplendence." Lu Binlai swiftly replied, "All right, boss. Please wait a moment. I'll deliver the item you want as soon as possible using SF Express." Chapter 150. Lin Jiej didn't reply to Lu Binlai's message. Instead, he put away his phone and returned to silence. Just as Shi Yao was about to finish the question, Lin Jiej's delivery arrived. Lu Binlai also arrived at the same time. Lin Jiej left the library for a while, and when he returned, he was carrying a large bag in his hands. He placed the bag in front of Shi Yao, took a cup of milk tea, and inserted a straw into it for her. After which, he took a look at the question she had just done. Shi Yao glanced at the milk tea placed in front of her and counted silently. There were a total of 8 cups. There were only the 2 of them here, so why did he buy 8 cups? Before Shi Yao could ask anything, Lin Jiej had already pointed out the mistake in her earlier question. While he was going through the question again, every time Shi Yao finished a cup of milk tea, Lin Jiej would bring her a new one. When Shi Yao finished her 3rd cup, she finally spoke the words that Lin Jiej had been waiting for. I need to go to the washroom." Lin Jiej stared at the question paper with a serious look on his face as he replied with an "un." After Shi Yao left the library, Lin Jiej put down the question paper and scanned his surroundings. The beast who delivered the love letter had already left the library in a fit of anger, and the other students were either busy with their questions or chatting with one another. No one was paying him any attention. Lin Jiej made use of this opportunity to pick up that eyesore of a love letter, opened it, and took out the pink letter within. He stuffed it into his pocket haphazardly before putting back the paper that he had asked Lu Binlai to print for him, after which, he returned the letter back to its original position. By the time they left the library, it was already 10:30 p.m. Lin Jiej sent Shi Yao to the female dormitory and passed the 5 cups of milk tea that Shi Yao hadn't finished yet to her. After Shi Yao entered the female dormitory, Lin Jiej turned around and headed for the male dormitory. When he passed by a bright street lamp, he paused and took out the pink letter from his pocket. Using the light from the lamp, he took a look at the content written on it. Shi Yao, some people say that falling in love with a city is because there's a certain person living in it. I believe that the reason why I fell in love with G University is because you're in G University. I don't know when I fell in love with you, but I know that loving you is the most beautiful thing that I've ever done in my life. No words can express my feelings for you. My only wish is to spend the rest of my life with you. Qin Shou's name. Phone call. Heh, a man actually wrote such a mushy love letter. Lin Jiej had no idea what he was so angry about, but after reading the love letter, he tore it into pieces and threw it into the trash can. Back in the dormitory, Xia Shangzhou was standing guard by Lu Binlai's side. Lu Binlai was leaning over the table with a pen in hand, and the two of them seemed to be discussing something. The first person Xia Shangzhou saw was Lin Jiej. "Boss, you're back?" Without saying a word, Lin Jiej walked up to the water dispenser and poured himself a cup of water. Hearing Xia Shangzhou's words, Lu Binlai raised his head to look at Lin Jiej and said, "Boss, I've made up my mind. I'm going to write a love letter to Lung Wan. Do you want to help me out?" Lin Jiej was just about to reply with, "I'm not interested," when a thought suddenly struck him. Roughly 3 seconds later, he slowly walked over to Lu Binlai with a cup of water in hand. He lowered his head to take a look at the love letter Lu Binlai had written, and a disdainful frown appeared on his face. After which, he said, "There's a saying that when you fall in love with a city, it's because there's someone living in it." Chapter 151. I think the reason why I fell in love with G University is because of you. Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai were stunned for a moment before turning their heads to look at Lin Jiej. After about 3 seconds, Xia Shangzhou said, "F***CK. Did I hear that right? Was it really boss who spoke just now?" Lu Binlai picked his ears and said, "Yes, you didn't hear wrongly. It was really our boss speaking just now, and his words are even better than those confessions you came up with." Scram. I don't have the time to bother with a grandson like you right now. My entire mind is on boss right now, Xia Shangzhou said as he circled around Lin Jiej. "Boss, you aren't from the mathematics faculty, right? You're from the Chinese department, right? Was that love letter really that good? Why were these two worshipping him so much?" An inexplicable displeasure welled up in Lin Jiej's chest. With an impatient look on his face, he asked, "Do you still want to continue? If you don't want me to go." "Yes, yes, yes." Lu Binlai pressed his palms together and pleaded, "Boss, I'll entrust my lifelong happiness to you. I'm not going to Majestic Clubhouse. No, not only am I not going, but I'll treat you tomorrow night. I'll treat you to Malatang." After saying those words, Lu Binlai smiled apologetically and said, "Boss, can you be more understanding? I've already spent this month's allowance on clothes. Next month, I'll make up for my hot pot. Tomorrow, I'll make up for the mala soup." Before Lu Binlai could finish his words, Lin Jiej's lips moved once more. "I don't even know when I fell in love with you. Wait a moment." Lu Binlai suddenly thought of something and interrupted Lin Jiej's words. He quickly whipped out his phone and turned on the recording function. Boss, say it again. I'll record it." Fearing that Lin Jiej wouldn't agree to it, Lu Binlai didn't forget to flatter him. "Boss, I'm different from you. You have a photographic memory, and you're able to memorize everything you see. I can't do that. It goes in one ear and comes out the other." Even though Lin Jiej had a how troublesome look on his face, he still repeated what he had said earlier. "Some people say that you fall in love with a city because someone lives in it. I think the reason why I fell in love with G University is because G University has you. I don't know when I fell in love with you, but I do know that loving you is the best thing I've ever done in my life. Thousands of words can't express my feelings for you. I only wish to be with you in this life. In this life, I will be with you, Lung Wan." These words are practically made for me and Lung Wan. Lu Binlai muttered those words, and in the next second, he exclaimed in gratitude, "Boss, if you were in ancient times, you would be one of the 4 great scholars of the capital." His talent was superb? Heh, he disdained to write such a sour thing. Lin Jie shot a sidelong glance at Lu Binlai and said, I didn't write it. I picked it up by accident. I didn't flatter the right person? Boss didn't write it? But a short second later, Lu Binlai spoke up once more. Boss, you're really incredible. You actually managed to pick up such a good love letter while walking on the streets. I've already betrothed myself to Lung Wan in this life. If you don't mind, let's meet in our next life. With a look of disdain on his face, Lin Jie tossed out a "You're not complimenting me. You're burning the bridge after crossing it," before walking over to his table, pulling out a chair and sitting down. Chapter 152. Now that he thought about it, it was indeed rather shameless of him to do so, but he couldn't be blamed. Who asked that beast to send Soft Bun a love letter? It was one thing to send it, but why did he have to do it right under his nose? Was his, Lin Jie's, someone whom anyone could poach just like that? However, that love letter, it was written. It was really not bad, my ass. Irritated, Lin Jie stood up and prepared to head to the bathroom. However, Xia Shangzhou, who had been staring intently at Lu Binlai's love letter, suddenly turned around and asked, Boss, where's your Peppa? When are you going to bring it over for Xiaolai and I to take a look? Peppa? Lin Jie frowned, not understanding what Xia Shangzhou was talking about. Lu Binlai, who was in the midst of listening to Lin Jie's voice message, raised his head and explained, Boss, Xia Shangzhou is referring to the pet you mentioned a few days ago that you want to raise, the pet that has a huge appetite. He gave it a nickname, Peppa, the Peppa from Peppa Pig. So, he's still treating Softbun as a pig? In the next second, Lin Jie turned to look at Xia Shangzhou expressionlessly. Xia Shangzhou shuddered. As he spoke, he backed away from the door. I just remembered that Li Qin is looking for me. I'll head over to his dormitory room. After saying that, Xia Shangzhou opened the door and ran away like a wisp of smoke. Lin Jie didn't feel sleepy at all after his shower. He lay on his bed for a while, and for some reason, he recalled what Shi Yao had said to him on the phone last night. I didn't do it on purpose. I just didn't think that the message was sent by you. After all, you're usually so arrogant, aloof, and haughty, as if everyone owes you 200 renminbi. Was he as bad as she made him out to be? Lin Jie flipped over. Was he really that bad in Soft Bun's heart? Lin Jie flipped over once more. After half a minute of silence, Lin Jie sat up on his bed. After learning from Lu Binlai that Lin Jie had fallen asleep, Xia Shangzhou finally dared to return to his dormitory room. However, as soon as he pushed open the door, he saw Lin Jie sitting up on his bed. He shuddered in fear, and just as he was about to leave, Lin Jie caught him and said, Come over here. I have something to ask you. Xia Shangzhou said, Go ahead, boss. His footsteps were already retreating. Come over here. Lin Jie paused for a moment before making a promise. As long as you answer my questions honestly, I'll let go of the matter regarding Peppa Pig. Xia Shangzhou immediately leaped over to Lin Jie's bedside and said, Boss, I'll answer your questions truthfully. If I lie to you, may I be struck by lightning? Satisfied, Lin Jie asked, Do I look like an arrogant person most of the time? The smile on Xia Shangzhou's face instantly froze, and his entire body brimmed with vigilance. This was a suicidal question. Boss, I still choose you to be calculative with me about Peppa Pig. Lin Jie frowned, but seeing that Xia Shangzhou wasn't showing any signs of compromising, he could only say, I guarantee that this isn't a deathly question. Xia Shangzhou, are you sure? Lin Jie nodded patiently. Only then did Xia Shangzhou reply, He's pretty cocky. Halfway through his reply, Xia Shangzhou sneaked a glance at Lin Jie, and seeing that the latter's expression was normal, he finally relaxed. Thus, he added, and doesn't like to talk to others. Lin Jie, other than being cocky and ignoring others, I'm also very arrogant? Thinking that Lin Jie wouldn't get angry, Xia Shangzhou replied sincerely, That's right, you're super arrogant. Lin Jie, do I look like everyone owes me 200 renminbi? Without any hesitation, Xia Shangzhou replied, It's not just 200 renminbi, it's more like 2,000 renminbi. Chapter 153. On the other hand, Lin Jie's expression immediately turned cold. Since you think that I look like you owe me 2,000 RMB, transfer me 2,000 RMB through WeChat right now. After saying those words, Lin Jie angrily lay back on the bed and pulled the blanket over himself. Xia Shangzhou, who was standing next to him, widened his eyes in shock. Didn't we agree that it wasn't going to be a suicide question? How did it become a money-giving question? However, money was his life. After going around in circles, it was still a dead end. Before Xia Shangzhou could digest this blow, Lin Jie had already lifted his blanket and straightened his body before adding, "If it had been any other time, I would have been able to get over it with 2,000 RMB, but it's 4,000 RMB today. You should know the reason." Lin Jie paused for a moment before replying nonchalantly, "Peppa Pig." Xia Shangzhou nearly fell to his knees. Didn't they agree that as long as he answered the questions truthfully, the incident with Peppa Pig would be written off? Why did he want to settle the score now? Was he too young? Or was boss too shameless? It wasn't easy for Xia Shangzhou to recover from Lin Jie's blow. He took a shower and climbed onto his bed. Just as he was about to mourn the loss of the 4,000 RMB that he was about to lose, Lin Jie, who had been lying motionlessly on the bed for a long time, suddenly flung his blanket aside and sat up. "Xia Shangzhou, I'm serious. Do I really look as arrogant as I usually do? Doesn't like to talk to people? Arrogant? It's like everyone owes me 200 yuan. Xia Shangzhou shook his head vehemently. No, no, no. Boss, you're the most approachable person in the world. You're always smiling at everyone you meet, and you're especially popular with people. As for your arrogance, that has nothing to do with you at all. You're the most down-to-earth person in the world. Also, you're acting as if everyone owes you 200 renminbi. What kind of nonsense is that? There's definitely something wrong with you. Boss, you might be the idol in the eyes of men, but in the eyes of women, you're the existence that the Academy owes me." Lin Jie. Who said he was talking nonsense? Who said there was something wrong with him? What kind of joke was this? Was Soft Bun someone whom anyone could casually slander? Hearing those words, Lin Jie's expression immediately darkened. Gritting his teeth, he spat out a single word, 8,000 yuan, before lying down and pulling the blanket over himself once more. Before Shi Yao could return to her dormitory room, the news of Lin Jie going to the library with her had already spread like wildfire. As a result, she was immediately surrounded by He Tiantian, Jiang Yu, and Lung Wan as soon as she entered the dormitory room. She honestly recounted how she was surrounded by Qin Iran's group from start to end, and she even shared a cup of the milk tea that Lin Jie had bought with each of them. Only then did they finally let her off. After taking a bath, Shi Yao was sitting in front of the table applying her skincare products when she caught a glimpse of the love letter that Qin Shou had given her. In fact, she had received a lot of similar love letters, but she was still quite curious about what was written inside. So after applying the skincare products, she picked up the love letter, opened it, and pulled out a piece of paper. This Qin Shou was quite novel. He actually used the most ordinary A4 paper to write a love letter. Even the content was printed. Could it be that this person's handwriting was very ugly? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao looked at the words on the A4 paper. He forcefully tore his clothes apart and covered his lips with his own. Shi Yao widened her eyes in shock. He barged into his body. He forced his hands to touch him. Reading to the end, Shi Yao finally realized what was going on, and her face immediately flushed crimson. How was this Qin Shou writing a love letter to her? It was clearly an erotic novel. It was one thing for it to be an erotic novel, but to think that it was even a scene of two men sleeping together. Chapter 154. That Qin Shou fellow wasn't here to confess to her, but to play a prank. If it's a prank, then so be it. Why must he use such a despicable and shameless method to prank me? Also, why did he have to use such a despicable and shameless method to prank me? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao tore the A4 paper in her hand into shreds and threw it into the bin. This is too much. I'm going to blacklist this fellow student. It was a full day of classes on Friday. Shi Yao's birthday was on Saturday, but since she wanted to return home to celebrate her birthday the next day, she chose to have a gathering with her roommates on Friday night. By the time the gathering ended, it was already 9:30 p.m. Lung Wan and He Tiantian had arranged to watch a movie together, and Jiang Yu had gone on a date with a promising guy. At 8 p.m., Shi Yao received a message from Expert of the Monkeys in the Sexy and Frisky, WeChat group and agreed to play together that night, so she could only return to her room. The first thing Shi Yao did after returning to her room was wash her hands, change into her pajamas, and tie up her hair. Then, she picked up her phone and appeared in the sexy and frisky WeChat group. Expert of the monkeys instantly appeared. Sis Yao, we just finished a match. Hurry up and come online. Shi Yao replied with all right, before exiting WeChat and logging into the game. Juice was still the owner of the room. As soon as Shi Yao came online, he immediately sent Shi Yao a message. A second after Shi Yao entered the room, Juice immediately spoke up. Sis Yao, long time no see. Thinking about it, it really had been a long time since she last played. It had only been 3 days. Shi Yao turned on her voice chat. It has indeed been a long time. I was busy a few days ago, so I didn't have time to play. Expert of the monkeys, what a coincidence. We were also busy a few days ago, so we didn't have time to play. Expert of the monkeys, what a coincidence. We were also busy a few days ago, so we didn't have time to play. Unperturbed by this, Shi Yao asked calmly, what have you been busy with recently? Juice, we've been busy dating. Expert of the monkeys, don't be shameless. You haven't even gotten married yet, and you're already dating? Expert of the monkeys, Sis Yao, don't listen to my grandson's nonsense. He already has a crush on a girl, so he's been busy chasing after her. Juice, grandson, let me tell you, the girl I like will become your grandmother sooner or later. These two people must be poisonous. She just casually asked a question and they actually quarreled? Shi Yao was silent for a moment. When she entered the game, she saw that the two of them were still bickering with one another. So, while she was in the midst of the parachute jump, she spoke up, Juice, expert, do you know how amazing I've been recently? Juice, Sis Yao, you've always been amazing. Expert of the monkeys, in my heart, Sis Yao, you're invincible. Yao loves ice cream. I'm not joking with you. I'm being serious. Let me tell you something. A few days ago, when I was playing the game, I even saved a person. No. I didn't just save a person. I even saved your boss 10 times. 10 times. This is something that I wouldn't have dared to imagine before. Expert of the monkeys. Wow. Is it really that good? Yao loves ice cream. That's right. Not only did I save someone, I even killed someone. Chapter 155. Shi Yao felt a little smug from the compliment, and she couldn't help but boast. I killed 10 people. Expert of the monkeys. Sis Yao is going to become a PUBG? Right after Expert said those words, the 4 of them coincidentally landed on the ground. Yes, that's right. As Shi Yao spoke, she controlled her avatar to run into her room. She noticed that someone had entered the room with her, but while she had entered through the door, that person had leaped into the room from the window. I'm going to become the future sniper goddess soon. She continued her words as she bent down to pick up the loot. But before she could finish her words, a very soft chuckle sounded in her ears. Following which, the chuckle continued. When did the future sniper goddess become so weak that she can barely kill a person with 100 bullets just by standing still? Shi Yao was stunned for a second before she realized that it was 111,111 who had spoken. Will it kill me to keep quiet? Just as Shi Yao was retorting in her mind, a person suddenly jumped in front of her. She shuddered in fright, and when she took a closer look, she realized that it was 111,111. So, the person who had leaped into the room earlier was Mr. Numbers? However, Shi Yao didn't spend too much time basking in 111,111's dashing movements. She quickly spoke up. All right, even if I'm not as amazing as you said, I'm still much better than before. I think I've improved a little. At the very least, Shi Yao was about to say that she could reach her current rank. But just as the words were about to come out of her mouth, she recalled how she had reached the immortal Star Diamond rank along with the other 3. Thus, she changed her words. At the very least, I'm at the gold rank of valor. Juice, that's not all. Sis Yao, you're at least platinum rank at the very least. Expert of the monkeys, grandson, do you know how to speak properly? Sis Yao's rank is at the glorious emperor. Heh. Before Expert could finish his words, 111,111 had already mocked him. gold rank of valor? Do you have some kind of misunderstanding about the gold rank? At the very most, you're only at the hot-blooded bronze rank. Hot-blooded bronze is the lowest rank. This was too much. Even if she could not reach the gold rank, she should be able to reach the silver rank, right? Furious, Shi Yao was just about to retort when 111,111's voice sounded in her earpiece once more. Oh, I forgot to mention something. Not only are you hot-blooded bronze at best, you're also a walking robot. Androids were robots that spawned from time to time in the game. In short, they were the ones that delivered equipment. A walking robot. Does that mean that she doesn't know anything other than walking in the game? No wonder he had never had a girlfriend and was still an old virgin. No one could save a person like him who relied on his own ability to stay single. I'm not that bad. I know how to pick up equipment, heal myself, save people, outrun the blue circle, and drive. I'm much better than a robot. In any case, I'm definitely not a hot-blooded bronze player. 111111. Yes, 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 yes. You are not a hot-blooded bronze rank. You are a stubborn hot-blooded bronze rank. Chapter 156. What's the difference between a stubborn hot-blooded bronze and a hot-blooded bronze? Shi Yao suddenly felt the urge to smash her phone. Expert of the monkeys. Boss, you're going too far. Juice. That's right. Boss, you really don't know how to speak properly. Expert of the monkeys. Sis Yao. Let's ignore boss and chase after the airdrop. Surprisingly, didn't refute expert and Juice's words at all. Shi Yao was surprised for a moment before following expert on a motorcycle to chase after the airdrop. Other than the fact that 111,111's mouth was incomprehensibly venomous, his skill in the game was so cool that it made others kneel down and call him daddy. Compared to the 2 days when he wasn't in the best condition, he seemed to be on steroids today, leading them to the chicken dinner with 10 kills each. When it was nearing midnight, Xia Shangzhou's smoking craving finally kicked in. Since Lin Jiej didn't smoke, he forced him to smoke outdoors. Thus, he said, "Wait a moment, I'll go for a smoke." After which, the group temporarily logged out of the game. Xia Shangzhou grabbed a cigarette and headed to the balcony. Right after he lit up his cigarette, before he could even take a puff, he noticed that there were many people gathered on the balcony, looking down. As he stuffed the cigarette into his mouth, he peeked his head downstairs, and he couldn't help but exclaim, "Holy shit!" Then, he turned around and called out to the people in the room, "Quick, take a look. It's a spectacular sight." Lu Binlai was the first to rush over. He took a look downstairs, and the same "holy shit" escaped his mouth. Is he confessing to someone? Who is he confessing to? Xia Shangzhou. I don't know. Let's take a look first. Lu Binlai turned to Lin Jiej, who was sitting elegantly in the dormitory room, and said, "Boss, aren't you going to take a look? This will surely go down in the history of G University. Such a gorgeous confession scene is definitely worth learning. I'll have to take a good look so that I can use it to confess to my future girlfriend." Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly, and his eyes were filled with indifference. With his full attention focused on Xia Shangzhou, he asked, "Brother downstairs, who are you? Your singing isn't too bad." The windows of the balcony were open, and Lin Jiej could vaguely hear singing drifting into the room. "I'm still waiting in this life. I can only be serious once in a lifetime. After confirming my gaze, I've met the right person." There were too many students watching this scene. When the boys downstairs reached the climax of their singing, there were countless whistles and shouts. Even Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou joined in on the commotion. So noisy. Frowning, Lin Jiej stood up and walked toward the balcony. He glanced downstairs indifferently. Amidst the roses and candles, a boy was holding a guitar, sitting on a chair, playing and singing. It's really boring. Is there a need to confess and cause a commotion in the school? People nowadays don't know how to keep a low profile anymore. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej retracted his gaze, straightened his back, and prepared to return to his dormitory room. However, before he could lift his foot, the singing stopped downstairs. The boy suddenly said, "It's now midnight, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. To everyone else, this might be an ordinary day, but to me, today is the birthday of the most important person in my life. Happy birthday, Sure Yao. As if someone had sealed Lin Jiej's acupoints, he suddenly froze. Chapter 157. After saying those words, the man downstairs strummed his guitar and started singing the birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. After the man sang 2 lines, Xia Shangzhou finally snapped out of his daze. Sure Yao? Did I hear wrongly? Lu Binlai also replied in a daze. I heard Sure Yao too. Little Junior's name. Xia Shangzhou peeked his head out to admire the scenery below as he praised. Little Junior sure has a lot of peach blossoms. Lu Binlai was just about to say something when he suddenly thought of something and quickly shut his mouth. He turned to look at Lin Jiej. The young man didn't look any different from usual. The night breeze blew past, ruffling his hair a little, revealing his plump forehead. However, there was a hint of gloominess between his handsome brows. It was fortunate that he was quick-witted enough to keep his mouth shut. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know how he died. While Lu Binlai was rejoicing, Xia Shangzhou, oblivious to the danger, suddenly spoke up once more. Little Junior's peach blossoms aren't too bad. They look pretty good. Lu Binlai could clearly see Lin Jiej's expression darken. In consideration of their brotherly bond, he discreetly kicked Xia Shangzhou. Screw you. Lu Binlai, why did you kick me? Xia Shangzhou kicked Lu Binlai back as he continued commenting. Someone said that his name is Han Jing. I've heard of that name before. He's from the arts faculty, and he even won an award for his performance last year. It's no wonder he's so good at singing. Is there something wrong with this grandson's head? He's giving me such an obvious hint, and he's actually scolding me? Noticing that the air around Lin Jiej had turned cold, Lu Binlai immediately prepared to sneak back to the dormitory room to protect himself. Tisk. What's there to look at? How vulgar. That's not what you said earlier. You clearly said that it's worth it, Xia Shangzhou said as he turned to Lu Binlai. But instead of Lu Binlai, who had already darted back to the dormitory room, he saw Lin Jiej, who was exuding a dangerous aura. Xia Shangzhou immediately shut his mouth. 2 seconds later, he finally realized what was going on, and he quickly changed his words while sneaking back to the dormitory room. That's right. What's there to look at? You're ruining the school's reputation. A second after stepping into the dormitory room, Xia Shangzhou was already grumbling at Lu Binlai. Why the hell didn't you warn me earlier? Lu Binlai, are you blind? Didn't I warn you already? Was that a reminder? You're kicking me. Damn, my comprehension ability is really bad. While the two of them were busy bickering with one another, Lin Jiej, who was standing on the balcony, entered the dormitory room. The two of them immediately shut their mouths. Under their gazes, Lin Jiej walked over to his desk, sat down, switched on his laptop, and began working on his project. Lu Binlai, something's wrong with our boss. He's actually working on a project in the middle of the night. Xia Shangzhou, what do we do? I don't think we'll live through the night. The door to the balcony wasn't closed, so it didn't take long for Han Jing to finish singing. After which, he began speaking once more. Sure Yao, happy birthday. Sure Yao, I like you. Countless jeers rose one after another. Sure Yao, I like you. Happy birthday, Sure Yao. As Han Jing's voice grew louder and louder, the atmosphere in the men's dormitory 501 became more and more gloomy. Chapter 158. They could clearly sense that Lin Jiej's tapping on the keyboard was growing louder and louder. Just as Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai's hearts were about to stop from Lin Jiej's tapping, Lin Jiej suddenly stopped and turned to look at Xia Shangzhou. What did you say just now? Xia Shangzhou's legs turned to jelly, and he nearly fell from his chair. Boss, I didn't say anything. You said that little Junior has too many peach blossoms? Other than a slight chill in his voice, there wasn't the slightest hint of emotion in it. Xia Shangzhou suddenly felt a chill run down his spine, and he shook his head vehemently. Boss, you must have heard wrongly. I really didn't say anything. Boss, I'll give you 8,000 renminbi. No, 16,000 renminbi. Lin Jiej's face remained impassive. He stared at Xia Shangzhou for a moment before saying, She has many peach blossoms, but I'll pluck every single one of them that I see. Even if she creates an entire peach blossom island, I'll still be able to raise it to the ground. As he spoke, Lin Jiej picked up his phone and began typing on the screen. By the time Lin Jiej put down his phone, the commotion outside had grown even louder. Xia Shangzhou, who was drenched in cold sweat by Lin Jiej's words, dashed to the balcony. "It's so noisy. I'll go and close the door." Barely after he reached the balcony, Han Jing's heart-wrenching confession suddenly came to a halt. Curious, he walked over to the balcony and looked down. Then, he exclaimed in astonishment, "Boss, little Junior is here." "What?" Lu Binlai rushed over to the balcony and looked down as well. A moment later, he turned to Lin Jiej and said, "Boss, little Junior is really here." Lin Jiej hesitated for 2 seconds before standing up and walking over to the balcony once more. Right after he stood up, Han Jing suddenly spoke up, "Happy birthday, Shi Yao. My first confession might have failed, but I don't want to give up just like that. Shi Yao, I really like you a lot. Can you seriously consider me for a moment?" Someone in the crowd suddenly shouted, "I'm willing." Shi Yao didn't say a word. Perhaps feeling embarrassed, she tugged on Han Jing's sleeves, intending to pull him away. Han Jing stood motionlessly on the spot, staring at Shi Yao intently as he spoke once more. "Shi Yao, I know that the rumors on the forum are fake, and I also know that you're single at the moment. So, I really hope that you can consider me seriously." "Shi Yao, I like you. Are you willing to be my girlfriend?" Unable to bring Han Jing away, Shi Yao stood helplessly on the spot, not saying a word at all. The onlookers waited for a while, and then someone shouted, "Say yes." Then, more and more people followed suit. "Say yes to him. Say yes. Say yes." Amidst the deafening and rhythmic cheers, Lin Jiej turned around and returned to his dormitory room. Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou glanced at one another, and just as they were about to return to the dormitory room, Lin Jiej appeared on the balcony once more. Before the two of them could react, Lin Jiej suddenly raised his hand, and a basin of water fell from the sky without any warning. It accurately splashed onto Han Jing and Shi Yao, extinguishing more than half of the candles that were swaying in the wind. The heck? What's going on? Who is it? How could they be so immoral? Amidst the grumbling of the crowd, a police car arrived with its siren blaring. "HM? What's going on? Why is there a police car here? I don't know. Who's the culprit?" Amidst the grumbling turned into bewilderment, a man dressed in a police uniform walked up to Han Jing. As Han Jing had a microphone, the police officer's words were clearly heard by everyone around him. "Do you know what time it is? Someone has complained that you're a nuisance." Chapter 159. As Han Jing had a microphone, the police officer's words were clearly heard by everyone. "Do you know what time it is? Someone has complained that you're a nuisance. And those candles, hurry up and extinguish them. Don't you know that they're a potential fire hazard? Remember to sweep the roses on the floor as well. This is only a warning, but if there's a next time, we'll detain you right away. But even if it's just a warning, you'll still have to follow us to the administrative office to do a self-reflection. What the heck? Who's so shameless as to call the police? What a pity. I was just about to reach the climax of such a romantic confession when someone suddenly cut it off. I'm afraid that I won't be able to sleep tonight." "That's right. What a killjoy. I've already taken off my pants, but this is what you show me. Either you stop teasing me, or you take responsibility for it till the end. It's no different from being stopped in the middle of XXO. You'll get prostatitis, all right?" Amidst the regretful and resentful voices of the crowd, Shi Yao was escorted away by the police officers. Since the female lead had already left, there was nothing much to see anymore. Thus, the surrounding crowd also returned to their dormitories. Not too long later, the crowd that had gathered on the balconies of the two dormitories disappeared without a trace. Lin Jiej was the only one who remained standing on the balcony, looking down at the scene below without shifting his gaze away. Under the watchful eyes of the police, Han Jing extinguished the candles one by one and swept up the delicate rose petals on the floor with a mop. Occasionally, a gust of wind would blow, sweeping the petals into the air. It was an indescribably desolate sight. Looking at Lin Jiej, who still hadn't returned to his room, Xia Shangzhou couldn't help but sidle up to Lu Binlai and grumble. "What's wrong with our boss? Little Junior has already left, so there's nothing much left to see. Why is he still standing there?" Lu Binlai shot Xia Shangzhou a look as if he was looking at a retard. You don't understand, do you? This is called appreciating the fruits of victory. Xia Shangzhou was stunned for a moment before he replied in bewilderment. Ah? Roughly 3 seconds later, he came to a realization. In the end, our boss was the one who called the police? Lu Binlai, what do you think? Otherwise, who would do such shameless revenge? Xia Shangzhou, that's true. There's no one else but boss. But we're glad that boss did this. This way, boss's mood will probably improve. Otherwise, the two of us would be the ones suffering. Lu Binlai nodded in agreement, but before he could say anything, Lin Jiej had already walked into the room from the balcony, closing the balcony door behind him. Lu Binlai hurriedly changed the words that were already at the tip of his tongue into boss. He was just about to use some flowery words to fawn over Lin Jiej when he suddenly noticed that there was something amiss with Lin Jiej's expression. He instinctively shut his mouth. Noticing Lu Binlai's abnormality, Xia Shangzhou shot a glance at Lin Jiej warily. As if the two of them didn't exist, Lin Jiej picked up the basin and walked into the bathroom. He casually tossed the basin aside and washed his hands before returning to his laptop to continue working on his project. While Lin Jiej was typing away on his keyboard, Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou stared at one another for a moment before whispering to one another. There seems to be something wrong with this plot. Shouldn't our boss be happy that he messed up someone else's confession to Little Junior? Why is he still so scary? Chapter 160. How would I know? I'm not a parasite in boss's stomach. I'm really envious of that grandson, Song Chaoshi. He should have married off earlier and moved out. I should hurry up and catch up to your grandma so that I can escape from boss's demonic clutches. Scram, you're my grandson. Grandson, how can you speak to your grandfather like that? The two of them bickered for a while before realizing that they had gone off topic, so they hurriedly returned to the main topic. If boss continues to be so subdued, we're going to be in deep trouble tonight. Hurry up and think of a way to ease the atmosphere. You should think about it too. Don't just rush me. The two of them continued arguing for a long time before Xia Shangzhou cleared his throat and said, Boss, it's Little Junior's birthday today. Aren't you going to prepare a present for her? Lin Jiej paid no heed to Lu Binlai's words. He didn't stop typing on the keyboard, but his profile had clearly turned colder as he looked at the screen. Lu Binlai coughed twice before mustering his courage to play along with Xia Shangzhou. Of course I'll give her a present. However, boss, have you thought of a present for Little Junior? Lin Jiej seemed to be completely immersed in his project. Other than the occasional frown on his forehead when he was deep in thought, he didn't react at all. Isn't that obvious? Girls are bound to like bags, clothes, and cosmetics. As Xia Shangzhou spoke, he stole a glance at Lin Jiej, and he noticed that the latter's typing on the keyboard was showing signs of slowing down. It was only then that he turned to Lu Binlai and raised his voice. In any case, it's only a matter of time before you buy the most expensive one. Receiving Xia Shangzhou's signal, Lu Binlai hurriedly chimed in. How vulgar. The value of a present isn't determined by its price, but sincerity. If the other party doesn't like it, no matter how expensive it is, it's useless. If the other party likes it, even if it's only worth a yuan, it's still priceless. Lin Jiej, who was in the midst of working on his project, suddenly stood up, kicked the chair behind him, and walked to the balcony. Lu Binlai fell silent. He and Xia Shangzhou stared at one another for a moment before shaking their heads, indicating that they were even more confused than before. Compared to the time when Han Jing had confessed, the dormitory was now extremely quiet. Lin Jiej enjoyed the night breeze for a while longer, but he still felt a stifling sensation in his chest. He knew very well that this discomfort was not caused by Han Jing, but by himself. Today was Soft Bun's birthday, but before Han Jing's public confession, he knew nothing about it, let alone a birthday present. Lu Bin was right. Gifts didn't matter how expensive or cheap they were. What mattered was sincerity and whether the other party liked them or not. But other than remembering passion fruit, loquat, watermelon, pineapple, pomegranate, and potato chips, roast duck, milk tea, ice cream, vanilla, in his notebook, he didn't know what she liked. So even if he wanted to prepare a birthday present now, he didn't know where to start. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej heaved a long sigh of frustration. He took out his phone, typed in a few words, and searched. What should I give a girl on her birthday? The answers were varied. Were netizens so unreliable nowadays? While Lin Jiej harumphed in disdain, he sought out the one and only young woman in his life to seek advice from. Chapter 161. Lin Jiej tapped into Lin Jiai's WeChat and casually typed a ? Then, he tapped on the send button. Lin Jiai's reply was swift, and it was the same as what he had sent. ? Lin Jiej paused for a moment before typing. Sis, if it's your birthday, what kind of present would you like to receive the most? Lin Jiai still replied almost instantaneously. Her reply was concise and direct, just like her personality. Money. Lin Jiej suddenly felt as if he had asked the wrong person for advice. What else would you like other than money? Lin Jiai replied almost instantaneously, but this time, it wasn't in Chinese, but in English. Money. Is there a difference between money and money? Lin Jiej really suspected that he had asked the wrong person for advice. Too lazy to type, he sent a voice message over impatiently. Sis, I'm serious. Other than money and money, what kind of present would you like to receive the most? Just like Lin Jiej, Lin Jiai's reply was also a voice message. In her elegant voice, there was a hint of impatience that was even greater than Lin Jiej's. USD, Euro, Japanese yen, British pounds. If that's not possible, gold would do too. There was no need to doubt her anymore. He had asked the wrong person for advice. Lin Jiej didn't reply to Lin Jiai's WeChat anymore. However, Lin Jiai was still sending him endless messages. When the notification finally stopped, Lin Jiej took a glance at it. Yen is fine too. Dollar is the best. It's more convenient for me to spend money in America. British pounds. I guess I can still accept it. But I still think that cash is too troublesome. It's best if you transfer me a bank card. If you find foreign currency too troublesome, I can accept Alipay and WeChat transfers too. You should know my account number. After confirming it with his eyes, his sis was even more unreliable than his netizens. He shouldn't have made the unnecessary move of asking his sis for advice. As the saying goes, it's better to rely on yourself than on others. So what if he knew nothing about Softbun? He had plenty of ways to find out what Softbun wanted the most for her birthday. But if he wanted to succeed, he would still have to rely on his grandfather. With this thought in mind, a glint flashed across Lin Jiej's eyes. Early Saturday morning, Lin Jiej woke up. Not wanting to wake the other two sleeping beasts, he washed up and changed his clothes. Then, he headed to the hospital. When he arrived at the ward, the attending physician and the nurses were giving Grandpa Lin a checkup. Lin Jiej didn't disturb the group. Instead, he quietly stood by the side and waited for the examination to end before asking, "How's grandfather's condition?" The attending physician glanced at Grandpa Lin, who had been alive and kicking when he first entered the room, only to find that Grandpa Lin was already on the verge of death upon Lin Jiej's arrival. Upon meeting the other party's gaze, the attending physician immediately shook his head and said, "Grandpa Lin's physical condition is still a little terrible. Perhaps there's a problem with the dosage of the medicine he was given previously. I'll hold a meeting with the hospital head later to look into the matter, and I'll discuss it with you then." Lin Jiej nodded and politely said, "Thank you," before personally sending the attending physician and the others off. By the time Zhang Xian returned to the ward, Grandpa Lin had already sat up with Auntie Sun's help and was in the midst of eating his breakfast. Lin Jiej didn't interrupt his grandfather's meal. When the latter was about to finish his meal, he casually asked, "What's the date today?" Grandpa Lin glanced at Auntie Sunday. Auntie Sun tilted her head and pondered for a moment before reporting a date. Lin Jiej replied with an "oh" before falling silent. It looked as if he was just asking for a date. Chapter 162. Before Grandpa Lin could recall anything, Auntie Sun had already spoken up. "It seems like it's Miss Sher's birthday today." Auntie Sun was still quite useful in times of crisis. She deserved a raise. Lin Jiej was extremely satisfied, but he maintained an impassive expression on his face, as if the person they were talking about had nothing to do with him. "That's right. It's Yao Yao's birthday today. This is bad. I've always prepared a birthday gift for Yao Yao in the past, so I can't forget about it today either. As Grandpa Lin spoke, he began instructing Auntie Sun. Give the chef at home a call and have him quickly prepare a cake. Also, give the driver a call and have him buy a set of clothes for Yao Yao. Oh, it won't be enough if it's just a set of clothes. Also, don't forget about the shoes, bags, and accessories. Also, don't forget about the red packets and birthday red packets. Most importantly, get the chef at China World Hotel to prepare a feast according to Yao Yao's preferences. Auntie Sun, who had memorized Grandpa Lin's instructions, added, Do you want the driver to send all of these things to Miss Shi's place? While Grandpa Lin was regretful that he couldn't celebrate her birthday with Shi Yao, he felt that this was the only way. Thus, he was just about to nod his head to indicate for Auntie Sun to do as she said. But in the end, Lin Jiej, who had been waiting for this moment for a very long time, put on a look of boredom and casually said, You can have the driver send these things to the hospital and at the same time, give them to... Lin Jiej paused for a moment before using a rather distant sheet to replace Shi Yao's name. Make a call to her and tell her that Grandpa misses her, so he asked her to come over. Wouldn't that be a surprise for her? Grandpa Lin's eyes immediately lit up upon hearing Lin Jiej's suggestion. That's not a bad idea. Let's do as that brat says. Saying so, Grandpa Lin began instructing Auntie Sunday. Halfway through, he suddenly turned to glare at Lin Jiej and said, It's not her, it's Yao Yao. If you don't want to use Yao Yao, you can use my fiancé too. Auntie Sun called Shi Yao at 9 in the morning. Her excuse was that it had been a long time since Grandpa Lin last saw her, and he missed her. Before 11, Shi Yao had already appeared in the hospital ward. After eating the feast that Old Master Lin had ordered, receiving the gifts that Old Master Lin had prepared, and eating the cake that Old Master Lin had instructed the chef to make, it was already 3 in the afternoon. In order to prevent Lin Jiej and Shi Yao from seeing through his feigned illness, Grandpa Lin immediately feigned exhaustion as soon as his birthday was over and shooed the two of them away. Under pressure from Grandpa Lin, Lin Jiej carried the birthday gifts prepared by Grandpa Lin out of the ward. When he got out of the hospital building, the driver was already waiting for him. When Lin Jiej arrived at the front of the car, he suddenly halted his footsteps and looked at the unusually fine weather. After which, he turned his head slightly to look at Shi Yao, who was roughly a meter behind him. He had purposely asked Grandpa what day it was, and he had also purposely used Grandpa to trick her into coming over from home. He had already achieved what he wanted, and the rest was up to him. In that instant, Lin Jiej suddenly felt as if he was a big bad wolf trying to abduct a bunny. Oh no, it should be the handsome man who abducted Softbun. Star. Chapter 163. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej cleared his throat and turned to Shi Yao, who was walking up to him, and asked, Do you have time later? Shi Yao scanned her surroundings. There wasn't anyone around. Was Lin Jiej talking to her? But he didn't call out her name. What if he was talking to the driver? Oh my! Why was she looking around when he was talking to her? Lin Jiej asked once more, Do you have time later? Shi Yao. Shi Yao was still conflicted over whether she should think too highly of herself when she heard her name. Only then did she confirm that Lin Jiej was really talking to her, so she quickly replied, Yes. Was my reply a little too honest? Shi Yao pondered for a moment before adding, Is there anything? Lin Jiej cleared his throat, and a hint of awkwardness flashed across his elegant face as he said, There's something that I need your help with. Ha! My help? There's actually a time when I need someone's help? Shi Yao raised her head to look at the sky. The sun was rising quite normally. What the heck? Shi Yao grumbled in her heart as she replied meekly, What is it? Does Softbun always speak so obediently and mildly? For some reason, Lin Jiej felt his mood soothing, such that his voice even became a little gentler. My sis recently took on a huge project, and I'm thinking of buying a gift to send over to her. However, I don't know what you girls like, so I need your help to look for it. So, he's buying a gift for Sis Jai. But then again, he could have looked for other girls for help. Why did he have to look for her? Just as Shi Yao was feeling perplexed, Lin Jiej noticed her silence. Thinking that she was unwilling, he spoke up once more. Why? Can't I? Lin Jiej paused for a moment before continuing. His words might have seemed casual, but there was no doubt that he was trying to increase the pressure on Shi Yao. The reason why I'm looking for you is because my older sister likes you, and she treats you well. She brings you a gift every time she comes back. I thought that you would know what she likes. She didn't know what Sis Jai liked the most, but it was true that Sis Jai would bring her a gift every time she returned. Even if she didn't have the slightest relationship with Lin Jiej, it was only right for her to help Sis Jai choose a present for her. Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Shi Yao hurriedly shook her head and clarified, "It's not that. It's not like I can't. I'm just wondering what Sis Jai likes. There's no rush. We'll think about it when we get to the mall." Seeing that Shi Yao had agreed to his request, Lin Jiej turned to the driver and said, "Pass me the car keys." "Yes, young master." The chauffeur walked up to Lin Jiej and passed the car keys to him. At the same time, he leaned over to Lin Jiej's ear and whispered in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Young master, I've prepared everything that you asked for. It's in the trunk." Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly, as if the chauffeur hadn't said anything at all. He nodded his head lightly before telling Shi Yao, "Get in." After which, he walked over to the driver's seat, opened the door, and got in. While Lin Jiej was putting on his seatbelt, he noticed that Shi Yao had actually opened the back seat door and climbed into the car. His movements froze for a moment before he turned to look at Shi Yao and asked, "Am I the chauffeur?" Confused by his words, Shi Yao shook her head and replied obediently, "Nope." Chapter 164. What did sitting in the back have to do with him being the driver or not? Shi Yao stared at Lin Jiej blankly, not knowing what to say. Did she not get what he was trying to hint at? Sure enough, there's a difference in intelligence between people. Lin Jiej pondered for 2 seconds before patting the passenger seat and saying, "Sit here. You're the driver, so you're the boss." Shi Yao replied with, "Oh," as she got out of the car and got onto the passenger seat. Lin Jiej fastened his seatbelt, and just as he was about to start the car, he noticed that Shi Yao's seatbelt wasn't fastened. So he shot a glance at her, gesturing for her to put it on. Meeting his gaze, Shi Yao thought that he was looking in her direction. So she followed his gaze and looked in the same direction as well. However, seeing that there wasn't anything interesting to look at, she turned to look at Lin Jiej with a peculiar gaze. Even with that gaze, she couldn't get what he was trying to say. How troublesome. Lin Jiej thought in disdain as he unfastened his seatbelt and leaned over to Shi Yao's side to help her buckle her seatbelt. His actions were too abrupt, and the unprepared Shi Yao was taken aback. She raised her head to look at Lin Jiej. His upper body was right in front of her, and his face was frighteningly close. She could vaguely feel his breath on her skin. Shi Yao's heart skipped a beat. After fastening his seatbelt, Lin Jiej shot a glance at Shi Yao, only to meet her eyes that were staring straight at him. His body stiffened, and a moment later, he reached out to caress her head and said, "Seatbelt is the most important thing to take note of when getting into the car." After that, he returned to the driver's seat, fastened his seatbelt, and started the car. The car was very quiet, but the atmosphere was a little ambiguous. Lin Jiej's grip on the steering wheel stiffened a little. On the way to the main road, he rolled down the window and turned on the radio. A spring breeze blew into the car, and soothing music drifted along with the wind, easing the atmosphere and softening one's heart. Lin Jiej's car stopped at W Shopping Mall. Shi Yao had never been to this shopping mall before, but she had heard from Liang Mumu that it was filled with the world's top brands, and every single one of them cost at least 5 digits. She knew that the Lin family was wealthy, but did Lin Jiej have that much money to live on? As Shi Yao followed Lin Jiej into the mall's elevator, she couldn't help but touch her pocket. Why was there such a huge gap between them? Her monthly living expenses were only 4 digits, while his gift cost at least 5 digits. Just as Shi Yao was criticizing him endlessly in her head, Lin Jiej suddenly spoke up, "How do we proceed?" Shi Yao snapped out of her daze, but Lin Jiej's question stumped her. She paused for 3 seconds before saying, "Actually, I don't know what Sis Jai likes the most, but I do know that there are many things that Sis Jai likes. Bags, cosmetics, clothes, shoes, accessories, greenery, fresh flowers, ceramics. All in all, Sis Jai likes everything that is beautiful and expensive. Of course, good-looking things are always associated with expensive things, so I don't know what to buy." "All right, let's start from the first floor then," Lin Jiej decided. "All right. Thinking that Lin Jie's suggestion was reasonable, Shi Yao nodded in agreement. Then, she suddenly thought of something important and asked, "But do you have enough money with you? Everything here is so expensive." Chapter 165. Do I look like I'm poor to you? Lin Jie glanced at Shi Yao and replied, "I'll admit that you're capable if you manage to spend it all." Am I imagining things? Why do I feel like he's mocking me? Shi Yao's lips twitched. I'm just worried that you'll spend all your living expenses and end up starving in school. What the heck is living expenses? It's been many years since I've had such a thing. Lin Jie couldn't bring himself to tell Shi Yao that any single one of these projects would be able to rake in at least 6 digits in income. After a moment of contemplation, Lin Jie decided to use a more tactful approach and replied, "It's fine. If I don't have enough money, I can sell my grandpa's car in the underground parking lot." Shi Yao felt that Lin Jie's joke was really too cold. When they reached the first floor and exited the elevator, Lin Jie led Shi Yao into an LV bag shop. Before he led her into the LV bag shop, he said, "Since my big sis has a vast array of preferences, you should just buy whatever you like. I'm sure she'll like it." Shi Yao replied with an "oh" before starting to seriously pick out her present. Half an hour later, they were finally done shopping on the first floor. It wasn't that they didn't find anything good, but they weren't all that satisfactory. Thus, when Shi Yao asked Lin Jie what she wanted to buy, he rejected them all. When they arrived at the second floor, before they could even start shopping, Shi Yao's gaze was already drawn to a coffee shop not too far away. Lin Jie looked at the other girls around him and saw that everyone's attention was focused on the dazzling array of products in the shop. Even the words they spoke about were the latest designs of a certain brand. This was already the 8th time Shi Yao had glanced at the coffee shop after reaching the second floor. Who could he blame? He was the girl he brought out to shop with him, so even if he had to kneel down, he had to make sure that she was happy. With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jie said, "You must be tired after shopping for so long. Why don't we head to the coffee shop for a drink?" These words were really against his will. It had only been half an hour, however, when he saw the sparkle in Shi Yao's eyes upon hearing his suggestion. Lin Jie felt that it wasn't a bad idea to lie to her. They strolled for half an hour on the first floor and ate in the cafe for 40 minutes. Then, they strolled for 20 minutes on the second floor and ate in the cafe for half an hour on the third floor. Then, they strolled for 23 minutes on the fourth floor and sat in the milk tea shop for 25 minutes. Finally, they reached the fifth floor, the last floor of the shopping mall. At the staircase of the fifth floor, there was a well-known brand of flower shop, endorsed by a popular little fresh meat. Recalling that flowers could be transported by air, Shi Yao suggested, "Why don't we pick a bouquet of flowers first before picking out a gift? The gift and flowers look really good together." "Sure." Lin Jie nodded and gestured for Shi Yao to do the matching herself. 5 minutes later, Shi Yao was done choosing the flowers. 10 minutes later, the waiter wrapped the flowers. When Lin Jie went in to pay the bill, he took a look at the flowers Shi Yao had chosen. They were light pink, light yellow, light green, and light pink. "There's no way my sister will like it, but it's fine as long as Soft Bun likes it." After leaving the flower shop, he strolled through half of the mall and arrived at an accessory shop. When Shi Yao reached the last item on display in the shop, she suddenly came to a halt. The gleam in her eyes was one that Lin Jie had never seen since entering the shopping mall. The ornament was a bracelet, a diamond bracelet paired with gold, and there was a small strawberry-shaped pendant at the clasp. Chapter 166. Retracting his gaze from Shi Yao, Lin Jie turned to the saleswoman beside him and pointed to the bracelet that Shi Yao was staring at. "Can I take a look at that?" "Sure, sir. Please wait a moment." The saleswoman smiled amiably as she walked up to the counter and took out the bracelet. Shi Yao turned to look at Lin Jie. Could it be that he thought that the bracelet was beautiful, just like her? Meeting her gaze, Lin Jie slowly moved his lips and said something that went against his heart. "I think that this bracelet isn't too bad." So, it was just as she thought. It seemed like Lin Jie's aesthetic sense wasn't too bad after all. Shi Yao's eyes curled up into crescents as she nodded. "Yes, I think so too. Especially that strawberry. It's so cute." She really did take a fancy to strawberries. Lin Jie calmly lowered his gaze, concealing the helplessness and speechlessness in his eyes. Sir, this bracelet is our spring collection. It's designed by our top designer, and it comes with a necklace, earring, and anklet. As she spoke, the saleswoman took out the other products one by one, not forgetting to promote them. Strawberries represent romance, and their shape is closest to the shape of a heart, so it's also known as the fruit of love. That's why this set of jewelry is called Strawberry Love. Lin Jie had initially thought that he was going against his heart by saying that the bracelet wasn't too bad, but after hearing the saleswoman's explanation, he found the bracelet more and more pleasing to the eye. So, he asked Shi Yao, "Which one do you think we should buy?" Shi Yao had only seen the bracelet initially, but the saleswoman had brought out quite a few accessories, and all of them had strawberries on them. All of a sudden, she was at a loss as to what to choose. Faced with Lin Jie's question, she looked from one to another, and after a long moment of hesitation, she still couldn't come up with a decision. In the end, she began studying the price. In consideration for Lin Jie, she pointed to the cheapest anklet and said hesitantly, "How about this?" Lin Jie took in all of her reactions, and for some reason, he couldn't help but recall the scene when Lu Binlai ran up to her with a bag of drinks and asked her to choose one. Back then, she was exactly the same as she was now. But did the price scare her? Why didn't she ask him if he could only choose one like that time? Since he was so hesitant and didn't know which one to choose, and he liked both, wasn't this easy to solve? Lin Jie didn't respond to Shi Yao's words. Instead, he turned to the shop assistant and said, "Help me wrap up this entire set of accessories." Of course, the solution was to buy. After all, Soft Bun loved it. Just like that, the sales assistant happily replied with an "all right" before bringing Lin Jie to settle the bill, leaving behind a dumbfounded Shi Yao. She secretly counted on her fingers to calculate just how much money Lin Jie had spent in a single minute. A tycoon was indeed a tycoon, and a big boss was indeed a big boss. Casually buying a gift for her sister was enough for her to eat whatever she wanted for a few months without sleep. But then again, why was Lin Jie's living expenses so high? Did all rich families raise their children like this? After leaving the jewelry store, Lin Jie headed to the washroom. Standing not too far away from the washroom, Shi Yao was bored to death waiting for Lin Jie when she saw a familiar face. Actually, she wasn't surprised to see that acquaintance. What surprised her were the two people following the acquaintance. How did she end up with them? Chapter 167. A slight frown appeared on Shi Yao's forehead. It seemed like some things were more complicated than she had imagined. So, she didn't just change recently. Perhaps she had been like this from the very beginning. It was just that she realized it too late. After Lin Jie walked out of the bathroom, he turned to Shi Yao and said, "Let's go." The young lady lowered her head slightly, not responding to his words. "Shi Yao?" Lin Jie asked in bewilderment. However, when he saw the contemplative look on Luo Ruoxin's face and how she was still ignoring him, he walked up to her and placed his hand lightly on her head. He shook her head gently and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Shi Yao instinctively shot a glance at Lin Jie before hurriedly reining in her thoughts. She reached out to tidy up her slightly messy hair while grumbling in displeasure. "I'm not spacing out. Also, don't touch my hair. You're so short. It's easy for me to touch your head if I raise my hand. What can I do?" As Lin Jie spoke, he gave Shi Yao a demonstration. He raised his hand once more and used a little more strength to ruffle her hair. "I told you not to touch my hair." Shi Yao puffed up her cheeks as she glared at Lin Jie. Then, she tidied up her hair once more and said, "Besides, I'm not that short." Lin Jie raised his eyebrows. He reached out to pat Shi Yao's head and said, "All right, shorty. We'll talk about your hair later. Let's go send my big sis a present first." "But I don't have my big sis's address. I'll have to give her a call first." Lin Jie carried the items he had bought in the afternoon with one hand and took out his phone with the other. He intentionally lowered his phone so that Shi Yao could clearly see the word "Big Sis" on the screen. However, little did she know that the phone number behind the word "Big Sis" had already been switched to another phone number that he didn't use often, and his phone had been switched off. "I'm sorry. The phone you have dialed is currently switched off." "I'm sorry. The phone you have dialed is currently switched off. I'm sorry. After hanging up the phone for the 5th time, Lin Jiej couldn't help but frown. That's weird. What's up with my sis? She actually turned off her phone. When Lin Jiej dialed the number for the 6th time, he received a notification that her phone was still switched off. Finally, as if having run out of patience, he said, "How boring." It wasn't easy for me to give her a surprise, but her phone was switched off. Since that's the case, I guess I'll just have to pass on the surprise. Following Lin Jiej's words, the background music of the shopping mall changed to a new song. Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Don't use too many emotions. You're not an actor, so don't try to plot. This shopping mall is toxic. Lin Jiej raised his head to look at the ceiling of the shopping mall before lowering his head to look at the items in his hands. With a troubled look on his face, he said, "But if I don't give you the surprise, what are we going to do with these items? I don't need it. No problem. I just want to see how you're going to cover it up. Your sadness is too superficial, like an untalented actress." Amidst the song, Lin Jiej seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and he turned to Shi Yao and said, "Why don't I give all of these to you?" Chapter 168. Shi Yao subconsciously took a step back before shaking her head vehemently. No, no, no. These things are too expensive. I can't accept them. I bought them, so I can accept them if I say so. And no, I can't. Shi Yao shook her head vehemently. Throw them away then. Following which, Lin Jiej really picked up the expensive items and headed for the trash can not too far away. Shi Yao was stunned for 2 seconds. Then, just as he was about to stuff the items into the trash can, she hurriedly chased after him and tugged on his sleeve. Lin Jiej turned to look at her silently. If she didn't want them, would he really throw them away like that? Shi Yao assessed Lin Jiej's expression, and from the serious look on his face, it didn't seem like he was joking. She hesitated for a moment. Then, she clearly felt his cuffs leaving her palms bit by bit. Shi Yao tried to pull him back, but she was unable to withstand his strength. At the very last moment, she could only say, "Thank you then." Lin Jiej nodded lightly to express his gratitude. He waited for Shi Yao to take the flowers and accessories before taking them back from her hand and saying, "I'll help you carry them for now." Shi Yao replied with another, "Thank you." Could it be that rich people were all so capricious? Are they going to throw away the things they bought just because no one wants them? But these things are really expensive. I'm not that close to her anyway, so I feel a little guilty accepting them. The more Shi Yao thought about it, the more uneasy she felt. So, she spoke up once more. "If you don't mind, why don't I treat you to dinner tonight?" Lin Jiej nodded. "Sure. It doesn't seem like treating me to dinner is enough to make me feel at ease." Shi Yao pondered for a moment before saying, "Why don't you treat this as a birthday present for me? I'll give you a present on your birthday too." At this point, Shi Yao couldn't help but think that this was a brilliant idea. She secretly gave herself a few thumbs up before asking, "How about this?" "Sure." Lin Jiej was silent for a moment before asking, "Do you know when my birthday is?" Of course she knew. His grandfather would always invite her to his house for his birthday banquet every year. Before Shi Yao could reply, Lin Jiej had already answered his own question. "Mine is on the 27th of October. Just like that, Shi Yao swallowed back the words that were about to come out of her mouth. Since he's in such a hurry to tell me his birthday, why did he bother asking me if I knew when it was? Couldn't he have just told me his birthday date? Shi Yao thought for a moment before replying with an "oh" to Lin Jiej's reply. Lin Jiej returned to his car and booked a place to eat. However, he wasn't in a hurry to start the car. Instead, he took out the bracelet and said, "Why don't you try it on and see if it fits? If it doesn't, we can still go back and change it." Actually, when they were shopping at the mall and she almost bumped into someone, he pulled her wrist and roughly estimated her size. However, he was still afraid of making a mistake. Shi Yao replied with an "oh" as she took the bracelet from Lin Jiej's hand and tried it on herself. However, seeing that Lin Jiej wasn't letting go of her, she could only show him her fair wrist instead. It really suited her. Her skin was fair, and the diamonds and red strawberries made her look especially youthful and beautiful. Lin Jiej couldn't help but take a few more glances at her, but the words that came out of his mouth were far from what he was thinking in his heart. My older sister might be taller than you, but it's fortunate that she's thin. Her size is also suitable for you. Chapter 169. It's fortunate that my elder sister is thin, and her size is suitable for you. She could accept those words. However, he could totally omit the words my elder sister is much taller than you, because it wouldn't affect the meaning he was trying to convey. Shi Yao glared at Lin Jie and said, I admit that Sis Jai is tall, but I'm really not short. It's just that Sis Jai is too tall, alright? Sis Jai's height of 1.75 m was much taller than most men, and her aura was so domineering that one couldn't help but want to kneel down and call her queen. Hearing Shi Yao's explanation, Lin Jie scanned her slender figure from head to toe before silently starting the car. Lin Jie's gaze made Shi Yao think that he couldn't be bothered to argue with her. So, unwilling to give up, as the car drove out of the underground parking lot, she added, I'm really not short. In the world of women, I'm still considered acceptable. Yes, you're not short. If you round it up, you're about the same height as me, around 2 meters. Lin Jie casually replied as he paid the parking fee. Shi Yao didn't know how she should refute his words. How could there be such a person in the world? When he's silent, he's so pleasing to the eye, just like a beautiful scenery, but as soon as he opens his mouth, he chokes me to death. He's probably the most typical type of person who relied on their own ability to stay single. Why does this remark sound so familiar? I feel like I've heard it somewhere before. Shi Yao tilted her head and pondered for a moment. Then, she recalled how Mr. Numbers was also so vicious with his words when they were playing last night. This was especially so for Mr. Numbers's yes and Lin Jie's yes. The tone was almost identical. In comparison, Mr. Numbers and Lin Jie did share a lot of similarities. Could they be the same person? I don't think we're that fated, right? This kind of plot should only exist in novels, right? It's not like I'm the female lead. As it was getting late, most of the restaurants had already closed for the day. So, Shi Yao brought Lin Jie to the most famous food street in Beijing. That street was filled with crayfish restaurants. A second after Lin Jie stopped the car, Shi Yao followed Lin Jie out of the car and began explaining to him, from here to the end of the street, there are a total of 48 crayfish shops. Let's go to Taste of Home. Their crayfish is the best. 48. Miss, do you have nothing better to do? Why did you come here in the middle of the night and count them? Lin Jie didn't reject Shi Yao's suggestion. Instead, he casually said, You seem to be quite familiar with this place. Completely oblivious to Lin Jie's teasing, Shi Yao thought that he was being serious, so she nodded her head and led him to the restaurant while saying, Of course. I often come here for supper. Let me tell you, if I walk from the south to the north of this street, I'll be able to connect to the Wi-Fi of any restaurant. Fearing that Lin Jie wouldn't believe her words, Shi Yao took out her phone and showed him her wireless network. As they walked, she said, Look, you've switched to another network, right? Look, switching to this shop doesn't require a password, right? And this one, Lin Jie was clearly teasing Shi Yao, but for once, he was rendered speechless by her words. All right then, miss, in terms of food, if you dare claim to be second, no one will dare claim to be first. Due to Lin Jie's presence, Shi Yao was able to extravagantly choose a suite when they arrived at Taste of Home. Chapter 170. Due to Lin Jie's presence, Shi Yao was able to extravagantly request for a private suite when they arrived at the Taste of Home. The waiter passed the menu over, but Lin Jie didn't take it. Instead, he gestured for Shi Yao to place her order. Having eaten at the Taste of Home many times, Shi Yao swiftly placed her order. Of course, in order to express her sincerity, she even chose the largest lobster that she couldn't bear to order. After Shi Yao was done ordering, the waiter repeated the menu once more. 1 big serving of spicy crayfish, 1 big serving of 13 spice crayfish, 1 big serving of garlic crayfish, 1 grilled scallops, 1 set of lamb skewers. Shi Yao was just about to nod her head and reply with a no problem when Lin Jie, who was seated across from her, turned to the waiter and asked nonchalantly, Are you sure you didn't give me the wrong menu? Do you want a single serving of all the dishes? The waiter nodded. I'm sure. Lin Jiej looked at Shi Yao with a peculiar gaze. Why are you so reserved with your orders today? Is it because you don't have enough living expenses? It's fine. I've never intended for her to pay in the first place. Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before turning to the waiter and saying, Give me 3 servings of each dish. Sir, you mean to say that you want 3 servings of each dish that the young miss ordered? The waiter thought that he had heard wrongly. That's right, 3 servings. Lin Jiej repeated before correcting himself. Ah, that's not right. It's 3 large servings. It was only then that Shi Yao realized that Lin Jiej was ordering according to the number of bowls she ate. She hurriedly waved her hands at the waiter and said, No, 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 I only want a large serving. Listen to me, don't listen to him. After the waiter left, Shi Yao turned to Lin Jiej and said, 3 large servings? I won't be able to finish them all. Lin Jiej nodded elegantly. I thought that you'd order 3 servings of everything. Ah, no, I meant 3 large servings. Shi Yao, who had just taken a sip of water, nearly choked to death upon hearing Lin Jiej's words. When Shi Yao finally managed to catch her breath and was about to continue drinking, Lin Jiej said nonchalantly, Oh, I also ordered 3 large servings this time. It's just that the crayfish has a different flavor. That's all. Then, Shi Yao really choked on her water. Other people might be able to enjoy a meal with a handsome man, but she was going to die from it. Who knew when he would say something that would choke her to death? Even if she didn't choke to death, she would probably choke to death. In the end, she ordered another 2 large servings of crayfish and finished them all before taking off her gloves in satisfaction. As her hands were covered in oil, it was difficult for her to wipe them clean with a wet towel. So, she informed Lin Jiej that she was going to head to the washroom. However, she did not return for a full 10 minutes. Lin Jiej had already paid the bill behind her back, but the longer he waited, the more he felt that something was amiss. Eventually, he couldn't help but take out his phone and give Shi Yao a call. The call went through, but no one picked up. Unable to sit still any longer, Lin Jiej grabbed his and Shi Yao's coats and walked out of the suite. After asking the attendant for permission, he headed straight for the washroom. He really did see Shi Yao at the entrance of the washroom. However, there were a few more people around her. The most eye-catching of them all was a young lady. In the slightly chilly night air, she was dressed in a very revealing outfit. She had a pair of enchanting purple eyes, long and thick fake eyelashes, and a dark red lipstick. Lin Jiej stared at her for a long time, but he was still unable to recognize her. Then, she spoke. I've been waiting for you for a long time, Lin Jiej. Only then did Lin Jiej recognize her. Qiniran. Chapter 171. It was only then that Lin Jiej recognized her. Qiniran. While he couldn't remember the names of the people around her, he did have an impression of a few of them. They were the ones who had surrounded Shi Yao at the entrance of G University a few days ago. That dark-skinned and brawny man was also there. Other than them, there were a few more people with them. They didn't look like students, but they seemed more like gangsters. Shi Yao was surrounded by them, and as soon as she saw Lin Jiej, she immediately called out, Lin Jiej, hurry up and leave. Her voice was still as gentle and soft as usual, but before she could finish her a long-haired man standing behind her had already covered her mouth. In an instant, Lin Jiej's elegant eyes were filled with hostility. Without any hesitation, he stepped forward, intending to pull Shi Yao away from the group of people. But before he could reach her, he was stopped by the brawny man. The one who spoke up was Qiniran, who was standing not too far away with her arms crossed. Lin Jiej, don't waste your strength. There are so many people here. You won't be able to take her away. As Qiniran spoke, she walked over to the brawny man's side. As she approached, the brawny man naturally placed his hand on her shoulder. A hint of disgust flashed across the depths of her eyes, but she didn't move away. Her eyes continued to stare fixedly at Lin Jiej. I won't allow you to take her away either. But don't worry, I won't do anything to her for now. However, if you... Qiniran raised her head to look at Lin Jiej from head to toe before continuing. Displeases me. I can't guarantee what will happen to her. Lin Jiej, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke up. While his words were directed at Qiniran, his gaze was directed at Shi Yao. I'm the one who provoked you. This has nothing to do with her. Let her go. If you have anything to say, come at me." As if she had heard the funniest joke in the world, Qin Iran chuckled softly. Then, she stretched out a thin cigarette in her hand to the side, and while someone lit it for her, she said, "Lin Jiej, do you think that I'm a fool? If I let her go, what am I going to use to threaten you? Besides, even if I have so many people and am not afraid of you, what if she calls the police if I let her go?" Qin Iran brought the lit cigarette to her lips and took a deep puff before exhaling a messy ring of smoke. Upon catching a whiff of the smoke, Lin Jiej frowned in disgust. Seeing the look on Zhang Xian's face, Qin Iran chuckled softly, and her tone hardened a little. "You despise me? But I became like this because of you. I'm telling you, Lin Jiej, I've spent a lot of effort tracking you down for this scene, so I won't waste my breath on you. This isn't the place to settle things. She's in my hands, so whether you follow me or not is your own business." After saying those words, Qin Iran shot a glance at the brawny man beside her. The brawny man immediately understood her intentions. He shot a glance at the others before grabbing Qin Iran's waist and leading her out of the restaurant. Shi Yao's mouth was still covered, preventing her from speaking. However, along the way, her bright, black eyes were fixed on Lin Jiej. Chapter 172. In that instant, he felt as if something was gripping his heart tightly, causing waves of pain to ripple through his body. He didn't even have time to think about it. In the instant that Shi Yao's figure brushed past him, like a robot being controlled, he raised his leg and followed after her. He didn't think about whether he would be able to defeat these people, nor did he think about the consequences of following after them. There was only one thought in his mind. Soft Bun had been tricked out of her home unscathed, so he had to ensure that she would return home unscathed. He wouldn't allow even a single strand of her hair to be broken. There were many people walking to and fro along the street, and most of them had formed their own cliques, so no one noticed Lin Jiej and Shi Yao's actions. There were many courtyard houses on the side of this street, but none of them were occupied. It was hard to tell how Qin Yuren's group managed to break the lock of a courtyard house, but the dark-skinned and brawny man easily pushed open the door of a courtyard house and switched on the lights before leading Qin Yuren in. The door of the courtyard house was extremely narrow, such that only 2 people could pass through at a time. Perhaps fearing that an accident might occur, they intentionally left one person behind to follow behind Lin Jiej. Shi Yao was in front of Lin Jiej, so as soon as she entered the courtyard house, Lin Jiej hastened his footsteps to catch up to her. A second after Lin Jiej stepped into the courtyard house, Qin Iran, who had just lit up a cigarette, suddenly spoke up. "Lin Jiej, I'll give you a choice. Between you and her, who wants to talk to me first?" Ignoring Qin Iran's words, Lin Jiej walked roughly a meter into the courtyard house. When the person walking at the very back also entered the courtyard house, Lin Jiej suddenly made a move. His reaction was swift and abrupt, catching Qin Iran's group completely off guard. The long-haired man who was covering Shi Yao's mouth didn't even have a chance to cry out before he was knocked to the ground by Lin Jiej. Following which, Lin Jiej grabbed Shi Yao's wrist and pulled her into his embrace. Following which, he raised his leg and kicked the man walking at the very back. At this moment, Qin Iran and the others finally realized what was going on. Cursing profanities from their mouths, they charged toward Lin Jiej and Shi Yao. As the courtyard wasn't too big, the distance between each other wasn't too far. Thus, it didn't take long for the crowd to reach Lin Jiej and Shi Yao. Lin Jiej didn't pay any heed to them at all. Instead, he lowered his head and said to Shi Yao, who was still wrapped in his embrace, "Run." Almost as soon as those words reached Shi Yao's ears, she felt a powerful force pushing her back, pushing her out of the courtyard house. Before she could regain her balance, she heard a loud Quang Lang behind her. By the time she turned around, the door to the courtyard house had already been slammed shut. However, Lin Jiej didn't follow her out. Shi Yao's first thought was to call the police, but when she reached for her pocket, she realized that she hadn't brought her phone with her when she went to the washroom. Shi Yao's second thought was to rush to the courtyard house. She pushed the door, but it didn't budge. She knew that it was Lin Jiej who was pushing the door open from the inside. She couldn't get in, and those people couldn't get out. Chapter 173. Shi Yao pressed her lips together as she pushed the door even harder. The door didn't budge in the slightest, so she couldn't see what was going on inside. However, through the door, she could hear curses, punches, and kicks coming from the other side. She could even vaguely hear a groan of pain. Did that sound belong to Lin Jie? Was he beaten up? Was it serious? He had to block the door to prevent those people from coming out, and he was alone. How could he possibly defeat them? Shi Yao knew that the most rational course of action right now was to leave. However, it was as if someone had pinned her feet to the ground, and she couldn't move at all. She knocked on the door and shouted Lin Jie's name, hoping that he would respond to her so that she could know whether he was fine or not. But the person inside didn't respond to her. This made her even more alarmed and flustered. She shouted his name until her throat started to hurt. Then, after a few knocks on the door, a small gap finally opened up. She saw the clean and elegant young man kneeling on the ground. His usually pristine white clothes were stained with footprints, and his beautiful hair was a little disheveled. Shi Yao opened her mouth, but she couldn't make a sound despite calling out Lin Jie's name. When she was stopped by Qiniran and her men, she was clearly afraid. But at this moment, she didn't know where she found the courage to charge at him without any hesitation. She wanted to ask him if he was in pain and if he was all right. She wanted to beg Qiniran to stop beating him. If she was angry or indignant, she could just come at her. But before she could say a single word, Lin Jie had already charged at her like a ferocious beast, shouting, "Get the hell out of here!" Ignoring his words, she ran up to him in an attempt to protect him. But a second ago, he had been shouting at her to leave. But at this moment, he had already pulled her into his embrace. With her in his embrace, he didn't even have the strength to retaliate. But Qiniran still refused to let him go. Protected by him, she couldn't feel any pain or sorrow, but she could still feel the punches and kicks landing on her body. Those people all drank a little and didn't hold back. Although she couldn't feel it, she knew it must be very painful. However, he acted as though nothing had happened. His tone of voice was calm and deep that she was familiar with. "Shorty, are you stupid? I told you to run. Why did you come back?" This was the first time that Shi Yao felt that the word shorty didn't sound so annoying coming from his mouth. She didn't reply, not knowing how to reply. He spoke again. "Shorty, what time is it? What kind of situation was this? How could he still care about time? Forget it. You probably wouldn't know even if I asked you." He didn't wait for her to speak and continued. "But it's definitely not past midnight, soft bun. Happy birthday." "Happy birthday, Shi Yao." "Soft bun, happy birthday, Shi Yao." In that instant, tears began flowing down Shi Yao's cheeks without any warning. Even though Qiniran couldn't hear their conversation, her eyes couldn't help but redden at the sight of them talking together. All of a sudden, she lost her rationality. Grabbing a stick from the side, she swung it viciously at Lin Jie's head. But before the stick could land on the ground, a sports car with its blinding headlights screeched to a halt at the entrance of the courtyard house. Chapter 174. The car door opened, and the first thing that entered everyone's sight was a pair of red high heels, followed by a pair of slender calves, a red dress, and long black hair that reached her waist. Finally, a face that was so exquisite that it was impossible to find any flaws in it. The others might not have recognized the person who had just arrived, but Lin Jie and Shi Yao did. Especially Lin Jie. After standing still, Lin Jie fiercely slammed the door shut. After taking a quick glance at the courtyard house, she walked over swiftly yet elegantly in her high heels. Standing before Lin Jie and Shi Yao, she didn't even blink. With a slight raise of her hand, she caught the rod that Qiniran had smashed down on her. Without saying a word, she shot a glance at Qiniran before snatching the rod from her hand and smashing it heavily onto the ground. Then, as if Qiniran and the others didn't exist, she lowered her head to look at Lin Jie and Shi Yao. Lin Jie had intended to reprimand Lin Jie, but before she could say anything, she saw the tears on Shi Yao's face. Her cold and haughty expression immediately turned gentle and anxious. "Yao Yao, Did they bully you? As soon as those words were spoken, Lin Jiai's eyes blazed with killing intent. Shi Yao, who was still crying, shook her head vehemently and said, "No, they didn't bully me. They bullied him." Lin Jai knew that the he Shi Yao was referring to was her younger brother, Lin Jiej. She replied with a nonchalant "oh," and the killing intent emanating from her abruptly vanished without a trace. She looked at Lin Jiej with eyes brimming with disdain. "If you can't even protect your woman, how could I possibly have such a disappointing younger brother?" "Just who is your younger brother?" "The younger brother from the same mother as you." Lin Jiej glared at Lin Jiai, not bothering to speak to her anymore. "What's with that expression?" "Lin Jiej, tell me, are you a coward or not?" "Lin Jiej, I'm talking to you. Are you listening to me?" Lin Jiai pressed on with a few questions, but there was no response. Just as she was about to continue questioning Lin Jiej, the tanned and brawny man suddenly spoke up. "Who the heck are you?" Ignoring the tanned and brawny man, Lin Jiai glared at Lin Jiej, who wasn't even looking at her. "Lin Jiej, have you been pummeled, silly? You don't even know how to speak?" The tanned and brawny man flew into a rage. "I'm talking to you." On the other hand, Lin Jiai seemed to have lost her patience from the tanned and brawny man's repeated words. Without even sparing him a glance, she spat, "Shut your mouth. The heck? No one has ever dared to speak to me in such a manner before." Lin Jiai was just about to continue talking to Lin Jiej when she abruptly raised her head to look at the tanned brawny man and asked, "Are you talking to me?" Lin Jiai straightened her back and took a step forward with a frosty expression on her face. "I'll ask you one more time. Were your words directed at me?" The tanned and brawny man recovered from his daze. Even though he was suppressed by Lin Jiai's aura, he didn't think that a woman could do anything about it. Thus, his tone was still as ferocious and vulgar as ever. "Yes, I'm talking to you." Before the tanned and brawny man could finish his words, Lin Jiai had already raised her hand and sent a vicious slap across his face. Chapter 175. The resounding sound of the slap echoed through every corner of the courtyard house. Just listening to it alone was excruciating. The tanned and brawny man didn't expect that such a beautiful lady would slap him so viciously. He was stunned for a moment before he clutched his face and spat out with gritted teeth, "Damn it, you actually dared to hit." Before the tanned and brawny man could finish his words, Lin Jiai had already raised her hand once more. "Papa." A few more red handprints appeared on the tanned and brawny man's face. This time, Lin Jiai didn't even give the tanned and brawny man any time to react. After the two slaps, she raised her leg and kicked him in the abdomen, sending him crashing to the ground. Then, disregarding the tanned and brawny man's companions, she charged forward and pummeled him. It was only when the dark-skinned brawny man howled in pain from the pummeling that his friends finally recovered from their shock of Lin Jiai's ferocity, and they immediately rushed toward Lin Jiai. Upon seeing this sight, Shi Yao instinctively called out, "Sis Jiai." In truth, she wanted to warn Lin Jiai to be careful, but before she could even say the word careful, Lin Jiai had already taken off her troublesome high heels, grabbed one in each hand, and charged right into the group of dark-skinned and brawny men. She didn't care who was standing in front of her. Whenever she caught one of them, she would use her slender heels to smash their heads. It didn't take long for screams of agony to fill the entire courtyard house. In contrast to Shi Yao's worry and shock, Lin Jiej appeared exceptionally calm and composed. Rubbing his aching back, he stood up and asked Shi Yao, "Are you all right?" Shi Yao shook her head before shifting her attention from Lin Jiai to Lin Jiej. "Are you all right? Are your injuries serious?" As she spoke, she reached out to touch Lin Jiej's body. Her hands were small and soft. Even though they were separated by a layer of clothes, he still felt a strange, numbing sensation on his body. Lin Jiej was about to reply to Shi Yao with "I'm fine," but the words froze in his throat. The way he looked at her became a little unnatural, and even the side of his ears began to heat up uncontrollably. After confirming that there wasn't any bleeding on Lin Jiej's body, she finally retracted her hand. At this moment, Lin Jiej suddenly recalled something, and he turned to Lin Jiai, who was in the midst of fighting by the side, and said, "Hey, the long-haired man over there, don't touch him. Leave him to me." Lin Jiayi looked at the few people who were still barely able to stand before her gaze, fell on the long-haired man that Lin Jiej was talking about. After staring for a second, she raised her leg and kicked the long-haired man. As the long-haired man was kicked to the ground by Lin Jiayi, Lin Jiej spoke up once more. Hey, didn't I tell you not to touch that long-haired man? Stop right there. Lin Jiayi acted as if she hadn't heard Lin Jiej's words at all. She lifted the long-haired man up from the ground, raised her fist, and smashed it heavily onto his face. Amidst the cries of pain from the long-haired man, Lin Jiej gritted his teeth and said, Lin Jiayi, you did it on purpose, didn't you? Didn't I tell you to leave him to me? Right after Lin Jiej said those words, Lin Jiayi elegantly threw the long-haired man over her shoulder onto the ground, rendering him unable to get up. Chapter 176. Lin Jiayi, are you crazy? Before you touched that long-haired man, I already told you to leave him to me. Lin Jiej, what are you shouting for? When did you tell me that? Didn't you say hey? While Lin Jiayi was replying to Lin Jiej, another two people had been beaten to the ground. Lin Jiej couldn't be bothered with Lin Jiayi anymore. As Lin Jiayi chased after the last person who had run away as soon as he saw her, she turned to Lin Jiej and asked, Lin Jiej, let me ask you, who's calling hey and who's calling hey? You're calling hey and Yao Yao's calling hey? Or is it Yao Yao's calling hey and you're calling hey? In any case, I'm not calling hey and not calling hey. By the time Lin Jiayi finished her words, the last person had also been beaten to the ground. She tossed her high heels to the ground and stepped into them. After tidying up her clothes and hair, she regained her usual elegance before turning around to walk over to Lin Jiej and Shuyao. Just as she was about to reach them, Lin Jiayi caught sight of Qin Yiran, who was hiding in a corner and preparing to run away. She halted her footsteps and turned around to look at Qin Yiran. She didn't say a word, but the look in her eyes left Qin Yiran frozen in place. Lin Jiayi assessed Qin Yiran from head to toe before pointing to the ground and saying, I don't hit girls, so you should lie down and pretend that I'm the one who beat you up. Qin Yiran's face paled and paled, refusing to move. As if unwilling to waste any more time with Qin Yiran, Lin Jiayi bent down to pick up the stick she had prepared to hit Lin Jiej with and swung it at Qin Yiran. Qin Yiran shrieked in agony as she collapsed to the ground and curled up into a ball. I was wrong. Don't hit me, don't hit me, Qin Yiran muttered for a long time. But after confirming that there was no sound of pain, she finally stopped begging for mercy. It was then that she realized that she hadn't been hit. Trembling, she raised her head and saw that the stick was right above her head. Frightened, she cowered backward, not daring to even breathe loudly. I thought you were a powerful person, but it turns out you're just an idiot. Lin Jiayi looked down at Qin Yiran from above as she sneered disdainfully. Let me tell you, a girl should love openly, love with a bottom line, and love with integrity. Someone like you will never be loved by anyone unless they're blind. After saying those words, Lin Jiayi shot a glance at Lin Jiej and Shuyao before saying, let's go. After leaving the courtyard house, the front passenger seat door of Lin Jiayi's car was pushed open. Xia Shangzhou scrambled out of the room. He clutched his chest and shouted, Boss, with a pale face. Then, he bent over and vomited at the corner of the room. So this was Boss's older sister. No wonder when Boss mentioned his older sister, he only had one sentence. She's the ultimate boss, and an ultimate boss that can automatically restore HP and MP at that time. He was still thinking, Boss's sister is so beautiful, and she's so much better than most celebrities. How could she be as scary as Boss said? It was only today that he realized that Boss wasn't lying to him. He was watching television in his dormitory room when he suddenly received a real-time location from his boss. Before he could make sense of what was going on, the door to the dormitory room was pushed open, and the beautiful Lin Jiayi walked in to look for Lin Jiej. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.